Good evening, everyone. We will officially call this City Council workshop to order at 5:02 p.m. We have 4 of 7 members present. And we will begin first with a presentation by National Sign Plazas on kiosk sign programs. Dan, if we can turn that over to you first to introduce the item, and then after you introduce the item, we will turn it over to Dustin to give us a presentation. Can you hear me, Dustin? Give me a thumbs up. Awesome, we got it, great. Dan, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a follow-up to something that we've been talking about as far as how to help with sort of the bandit signs that we see from time to time. You know, that's the easiest way to say it. We see builder signs that go up in our rights of ways throughout the year, and it causes a lot of work for our code enforcement folks, and you know, it's just a lot of clutter, obviously, that we would love to do without, or at least help to minimize. And as it turns out, some of our neighboring cities, our sister cities, they partner with National Sign Plazas, and they've got a pretty neat system where it's more standardized. So it's the ones that you've seen them in Alvin and Pearland and League City, where, you know, maybe we have our logo across the top of the sign itself. So we have some more signage throughout the city, and then the different builders that are building in, you know, Valencia or Meridian or Pomona or wherever they're building. It just sort of draws your attention more. I guess consistently. You know where they're at on the sign, you can follow their signage. And what's really neat is, instead of the signs going anywhere, we have some input, we have some control over where they go. This group here, and I don't want to take the whole presentation, but they'll handle putting the signs out, basically with input from us to see what they're going to look like aesthetically. And then there's a bonus to it that, you know, essentially all of those little spots are rented out from the various builders. And so there would be actually some revenue that comes back to the city each month, did we decide, or each quarter? Anyway, we'll get into all the details, but that's the gist of this. So we've met with them at the staff level, and wanted y'all to have a chance to see if you like this approach, then we can move forward with putting together the agreement. And actually the turnaround time to get these up and running is pretty darn quick. So we're excited about it on the staff level, and just wanted to make sure that we're in line with council's vision. It is. It is, yes, sir.
All right, Dustin, the floor is yours.
All right, and everyone can hear me all right? Can I get a thumbs up? Great. Okay, well, I'll start off briefly by just thanking you all for the opportunity to present to you tonight. I will be respectful of your time, but just that being said, I appreciate that you all are taking the time to hear about the program this evening. So Manvel is growing very quickly. At a glance, it looks like there's been a 93% population increase in the past 6 years. So like most cities in that phase, the directional signage that builders are placing has started to outpace the system that's designed to manage it. So my name is Dustin, and I handle public sector outreach and government relations for National Sign Plazas. And National Sign Plazas has been partnering with the city and county governments for the last 27 years to turn illegal signs into, as was just described, a net positive for both the government and the local economy. And we refer to this partnership as the Home Builder Directional Sign Program. Simply put, the program eliminates rogue signs put in the rights of ways by home builders, while simultaneously enhancing community identity and generating revenue for the city. The presentation this afternoon, should be less than 20 minutes, and by the end, I hope that you're all able to understand what the Home Builder Directional Sign Program is and how it can bring value to Manvel. A brief bit more on the history of the program, and once again, he covered a couple of these. So we have over 70 programs, or have implemented over 70 programs in 8 different states across the U.S. Now, some of these programs have since retired because of build out and so forth, but others are still going after 20 plus years. And as mentioned, we have locally some programs in Pearland, Alvin, and League City, and Texas City as well. So we've been doing this since 1999. The very first program we actually implemented at the county level with Cherokee County. So here is an example of the weekend directional signs, and you all are probably already very familiar with these. They go by a few different names: rogue signs, snipe signs, bandit signs, but they are all illegal signs, and for a few different reasons. First off, as was mentioned, they clutter your streets, especially during a housing boom. They create additional work for your code enforcement, as well as public works, who need to maintain the grounds around these signs. They're not an effective means of wayfinding. They don't meet TxDOT minimum letter heights or speed limits, and they're unreadable at normal speeds. And so even for the home builders, unless you're one of these national builders that completely eclipses all the rest of them, then, this isn't an effective means of wayfinding. And left unchecked, these signs have a broken window effect that can kind of create a negative impact on the overall community aesthetic, which can ultimately deter home buyers, and that's no good for the economy. So a lot of municipalities, and I think Manvel is one, prohibit items in the right-of-way or structures in the right-of-way altogether. And that is a fairly standard approach. However, the directional signage is somewhat critical to the home buying process, which is, of course, critical to the local economy. More than 50% of traffic to new communities actually comes from directional signage. And that's because when you think about it, people don't generally shop for a specific builder brand. They'll decide that they want to live in a community like Manvel, go to that community, and from that point forward, it's often the directional signage that gets them to kind of their final destinations. And it's also not uncommon for many of these communities and the roads themselves not to appear on GPS systems like Google Maps, Apple Maps, just because they are in fact that new, which leaves the directional signage as the kind of only way to get them to those communities. So here are a few examples of the sign plazas that we've implemented in a few of the other cities. Growth is a sign of success, and these signs kind of help your community's aesthetic to reflect that. As you can see, the Civic brand is at the top of each of these, and this is by no means all of the different ways that the signs can look. You have quite a bit of leeway in the design of the sign, as long as it stays within the DOT regulations. So in addition to that, the home builder program is a wayfinding system that's designed to accommodate the home buyer. So you noticed on the previous slide that there were certain communities that had, 4 or even more signs just directing to the same community. Our goal is to maintain a minimum number of signs and kind of level the playing field for the national and the local home builders as well. So everyone is kind of equally represented, and the home buyer can easily find each different community. Left to their own devices, as I stated, they will put as many signs as possible, basically, at every intersection. So the program is not only meant to highlight your community identity, but also promote the home buyer activity as well. So the goal is not more signs, but fewer, better managed signs. And this is kind of a AI concept of what a plaza could look like in Manvel. They shared with me some of the signage that you have for wayfinding or entryway signage that has recently been adopted. So this was kind of incorporating that pattern into the sign plazas. But of course, this is just a concept, so feel free to make whatever changes you like should you decide to go forward with the program. So the big kind of highlights of the program: it eliminates road signage without alienating your home builders. So National Sign Plazas functions as an intermediary between the local government and developers. Any plaza-related questions that do come to the city will be directed to NSP. So the city is pretty much a supervisor of the program. You put your stamp of approval on the locations, and we'll discuss that approval process in more detail later. But beyond that, it is fully managed by National Sign Plazas. The program does generate revenue at no cost to taxpayers. So all the costs that are associated with the fabrication of the signs, the installation, the maintenance, and we'll talk more about that as well, not just of the signs themselves, but the property around the signs, and ultimately the removal of the signs if and when build out occurs. All of those costs are shouldered by National Sign Plazas. So because the program doesn't cost any taxpayer dollars, implementation is usually pretty fast and simple. When the signs have been installed, developers pay to lease the panels on the plazas, and a percentage of that is then remitted back to the local government. So the more new developments you have in your area, the greater potential revenue the program can generate. Over the last 5 years, NSP has remitted over $2.5 million back to cities and counties through this program. So that's just a statistic that they like to share. So it is sometimes a nominal amount, nothing that's going to double your budget or anything, but it does add up. And in Manvel's case, you have quite a few communities. So, it could potentially finance a full-time employee, something like that. Third, you will greet visitors with signage bearing your civic brand. So that's fairly self-explanatory. Earlier, I discussed that broken window effect that the weekend directional signs can have. The sign plazas kind of have the opposite effect. You can impress potential home buyers not only with the civic brand, but also with the fact that even the home builders in the community are advertising at kind of the higher level than just using those weekend directional signs. And lastly, you're going to simplify your enforcement. So you free up code enforcement as well as your public works for other tasks, and that's just another source of savings for the city. One additional detail about the program: it is locally managed. So National Sign Plazas does not outsource or work with any third parties. We have several local offices there in Texas. And if there is any issue with the plazas, it will be an NSP employee that you reach out to, probably me, and it'll be NSP employees that come out and address the issue, whatever it may be. It's designed to be completely turnkey for the city, so once a program has been implemented, we like for it to be pretty simple for any city employees going forward. So I usually pause at this point. Do you guys have any questions about anything I've said so far?
Well, thank you, Dustin. I'm excited about this opportunity for Manvel and what it would mean for our community, get rid of a lot of those bandit signs and kind of beautify it. We keep a lot about keeping Manvel beautiful, and this would help with doing that. Dan, what would be, coming from this conversation tonight, are you looking for any specific direction from council? What would be the next steps?
Yes, Mayor, we are looking for direction. This idea was brought up probably 10 years or so ago, and at the time, council was not interested in this process, not necessarily with this company, but just in general, they weren't interested. Maybe didn't quite understand, what it would bring to the table. So we think it's a good idea, but we really want to make sure that we're in line with what y'all would like to see. If y'all are good with it, if we get general thumbs up, then again, we can start working on the agreement with them.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dan. Council, I'll open it up to comments and feedback. Any questions, or you guys want to see something like this move forward? We'll go Mayor Pro Tem.
So how would this get implemented? I mean, who would reach out to Valencia or Meridiana, said, hey, we're going to this sign program. This is a requirement now for you. And not only that, but what if there's still some rogue signs out there on the roadway? Who's going to pull those signs up?
I am actually going to address both of those questions. I apologize. I was pausing for questions, but I still have a couple more slides to go through if that's all right with you guys. Just to answer the two questions that you just asked. Builder outreach is generally handled by us. And I say generally, it's 99% handled by National Sign Plazas. There have been a couple of examples or instances where the city has wanted to kind of have a say in how the program is framed toward the home builders so that it's not viewed as, you're being forced into doing something. So we have had a couple of times what they call a community meeting where the local home builders were invited and the city kind of introduced the program, and then we gave a presentation similar to this one, but more geared toward the home builders that kind of introduces the program and what they can expect going forward. Quite a few of the home builders in your area are already familiar with us due to participating in other programs in Alvin and their local, cities in the area. So there's not a lot of weekend directional signs that go up after the implementation of this program. Of course, we can't guarantee that 0 home builders are going to go outside and, do something beyond this. And if it becomes a significant issue or at the city's request, we have in the past assisted with the removal of those weekend directional signs. And that kind of is just a component of the maintenance of the plazas themselves. So when you look at the contract and you're like, well, where does it say that you're going to help with the removal of signs? It's with the plaza maintenance. So if builders are putting signs up anywhere near the plazas themselves, then NSP employees will come out and assist with the removal of those. Does that answer your couple
Appreciate
questions?
that. Thank you.
Sure. And I'll go forward with this, and I know I'm already approaching the 20-minute mark here, so I'll try and be quick. As you guys are probably pretty familiar with the Manvel 2045 plan, there are several elements of the plan that the policy or the home builder program kind of operationalizes these goals that the plan has already stated. So upholding the visual and functional standards, especially along prominent corridors, and we'll take a look at a map on the next slide, but this will replace your builder signs with a standardized system and outlining the city's preferred land use patterns, housing needs, and design quality. This provides a city-managed, it's a city-approved wayfinding system for new neighborhoods. I need to change the phrasing on that because it's not managed by the city. Anyway, I apologize. I said I wasn't going to read it, and then I started reading it. So, like I said, you guys know what your plan says, and I will share this deck with you following the presentation. But it does just kind of operationalize several of the goals that are stated in your Manvel 2045. So, briefly looking at a map, several of these corridors were highlighted as areas where there's a lot of development or a lot of that they're main arteries for travel throughout the city. So at a glance, these are the corridors that we look at placing the routes and pathways along that would ultimately direct to the communities that are advertising throughout the city. The blue dots, or they're not blue dots, but these that have the prices, each of these are different communities that are currently advertising within city limits. So this is not an exhaustive list of all of them, but this is just ones that are advertising on a specific website. So when you look at the map, there are quite a few different areas, and some of them are TxDOT controlled, and we do work with TxDOT in quite a few different cities to get signage up in those right-of-ways, as well as cities that or corridors that are right-of-ways that are controlled by the city itself. And these are just the single-family destinations. So you've got multi-family communities or other sorts of communities advertising that want to participate in the program, then those may be included as well. So if we decide to go forward with the program, it's fairly, I've shared the operating agreement. I don't know if council, if you've had a chance to take a look at it, but I'm happy to share it again if you guys need to. Otherwise, just take a look at the standard operating agreement, and it basically spells out in legalese everything that I'm telling you here. But you can check that out and make whatever modifications are needed. Should we get an agreement in place, once that agreement is signed and adopted, we develop the designs and the placement map for the city's review. So we'd anticipate in the initial rollout, like the first 6 months, anywhere between 15 and 20 plazas with 5 to 6 builder directional panels on each one. So the plazas usually come in 2 different sizes. The first one can hold up to 10 panels, and the other is anywhere between 4 and 6 panels. So this would be an example of one of the smaller sizes. But once again, this is just an AI generated image. So there's it is very hypothetical. One kind of lift on the city's part, or the thing that makes it slightly less than turnkey, is that it does require some ordinance adjustment. As I mentioned before, I think that Manvel already prohibits objects in the right-of-way. So that's the first thing that needs to be done if it's not already in the ordinance. Second would be you would need to define what a sign plaza is and make an allowance for them within the ordinance. And again, I think that I've shared some sample ordinance language, but I'm happy to reshare that if you guys would like to get a look at it. And yeah, within 60 days of approval, and so that's not 60 days of signing of the contract, but once we do have design for the sign and a map of sign locations approved, we can get the plazas up pretty quick. Oftentimes it's less than that because we can begin fabrication of certain things like the posts and the finials. If you decide that you just want round finials, then we can get those done ahead of time. So anyway, they are all about expediency and getting the plazas up as quickly as they can after an agreement's been put in place. And we kind of already covered a lot of this, but we do, in most instances, we handle all builder outreach, unless the city would be interested in doing that community meeting that I described before. Now, in terms of the map, the city has ultimate veto power always. So no plaza will ever go up that the city does not approve. However, we do solicit builder feedback because, of course, they are kind of the customers for this program. And so a lot of times the plaza locations are somewhat predetermined. It's because it's those same intersections that you've been seeing the weekend directional sign placement recently. So, yeah, as far as onboarding and getting the builders to participate in the program, that's 100% handled by us. Like the signing up, figuring out what their panels will look like and all of that, that's all handled by National Sign Plazas, and quite a few, these are just a few of the builders that we work with in other areas, but there are many. Once we get the program up and running, we maintain not only the plazas themselves, but the grounds surrounding them. So if a tree branch grows in front of a plaza, or the grass gets too tall, then we do, and it's specified a certain radius around the plazas that we maintain, and that's in the agreement. We do also respond to any service needs with a 72-hour turnaround. So if there is a weather incident or, I'm sorry, did someone have a question?
Well, Dustin, I was going to step in here. I think we may have a question or a comment from Councilman Bonner.
I just want to know, Dustin, is there any lighting for these?
There can be. Historically, we do not light the signs because that would, of course, it would increase the cost of them, which, again, that is shouldered by NSP. But as a rule, most of the home buyers are shopping during the daytime, so there's not usually a need for the signs. But if it is something, it's not a deal breaker. If that's something that council would be interested in implementing, then we could absolutely create a sign design that have lights.
No, just the opposite. I was making sure that they wouldn't have lighting on them because I didn't think it was needed. So that's why I was
That is correct. It usually is not, but some cities just like to have them lit up.
Awesome. Thank you,
Do you
Dustin.
guys have any other questions? I'm almost done here.
Okay, yeah, let's start to land the plane here in about 2 minutes. You think you can wrap it up in 2 minutes, Dustin?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
I might even be able to do it in less than that because really the only last two things, as the program continues, we maintain regular contact with both the builders and the city. I'll be the kind of person that handles things on the government side. So we maintain contact with the city, submitting quarterly reports, and that was something that was kind of mentioned at the beginning, quarterly remittance as well. There are some cities that prefer it on a monthly basis, which we can do, but usually it's quarterly. And I also check in just to see if there are any projects like road widenings, things like that, that may require temporary or permanent removal of a sign. We also maintain communication with the builders just to stay ahead of new communities that may require additional plazas, or if they're on the verge of having a build out complete, that, we like to maintain a minimum number of plazas or of panels on the plazas. So if a plaza gets to a point that it's looking too empty, we'll either downgrade it to the smaller size of plaza or remove it altogether if it's no longer warranted. So we have been a bit, and I'll basically graze through this, but Waxahachie, they took about 2 decades to double their population, what Manvel has done in the past 6 years. And they implemented a program, this is just an example of their signs, and used the revenue to implement a civic wayfinding system. And that's a wrap. So this is the example that was shared with me of the gateway signage that you guys have implemented. So you can kind of give a comparison right next to each other. But anyway, that's the framework at a high level. If you guys have any other questions or red flags that come to mind, I am all ears.
Thank you, Dustin. We have a question from Councilwoman Sarmiento.
This may or may not be for him. It may be for Dan Johnson. Do we anticipate using these as wayfinding throughout the city as well, like guiding towards City Hall, the parks, Croy Park, etc.?
We could. We talked to Dustin about that. I believe, Dustin, you said we get 10% of the floor space, so to speak, on a sign?
Yes. And that usually equates to 1 panel per plaza. And that's just a freebie to the city. So, like, for example, on this one, I think you guys can see my mouse click. I am so sorry. Amazon delivery. So yes, you'd be able to add, whatever you wanted it on the plaza. It would be, towards City Hall or whatever civic destination you guys want to use it for. And that's just that's baked into the contract that I can share. share with you the template agreement.
Okay, so the short answer is we can do that, but as a favor to us, they're letting us use 10% of it to use for civic duties, or, civic uses?
As part of their normal contract, the city gets a certain amount of it. So if we wanted more than that, if we wanted half of the overall sign or something, then I presume that we would, either work that into the contract, or we'd have to rent the space just like anybody else would if it was over what the contract allowed for.
Okay.
Yes, you could absolutely work that into the contract if you wanted to get additional panels for the city.
And so just to be clear, these signs are being the profit is going to them, and they are leasing each space to the builders. And what benefit do we have on the city side?
A couple of things. So one, to minimize the clutter, because the signs go out anyway, and in the form of the little bandit signs. So we have some better control, I guess, if you will, of what the signs look like in our city. But then we also have our Manvel logo throughout the city, which, we have the 3 now, but that's about it. And we've got 40 square miles to cover, so it's a big city. So this would be an opportunity to get our name, the recognition more
Branding,
and more.
et cetera. Okay. That's making me just a little skeptical about them profiting off of these and then us building that into the contract. If that's the case, then we need to get the best deal possible so that, there's $0 coming out of our pocket as well. But then it has to be a win-win for, our partners who do come to the community here. And the reason I ask about the wayfinding to the civic locations is when you drive through other cities, you see them and they're beautiful. And it just looks very professional, and it looks like an up-and-coming keep Manvel beautiful, right? So that's where I would like to see, is at least on every single one that's there, or at least the ones on Highway 6 that we have directions. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Council, any other comments or questions? Council, would you guys like to see staff negotiate what an agreement looks like and then bring that back forward and we can consider it then? All right. Got a lot of head nods. Dustin, appreciate the time tonight. I think staff got the direction to begin negotiations and bring back forward an agreement that we can have more questions and answers around.
All right. Thank you once again for letting me present to you this afternoon. And reach out if you guys have any questions. Do you have the sample ordinance language and template agreement, or would you like for me to share that in a different email thread so that you all can take a look at it?
If you can just make sure, Dustin, that our city manager has that, then he'll be able to distribute it.
Certainly. Will do.
Great. Thank you, Dustin. Have a good evening.
You as well. Thank you again.
All right. Let's see if this echo stops now. Whew. That's a lot of echoing. A lot of echoing. All right. Well, Council, we still have some time here in the workshop. Still getting a little echo, it sounds like. We'll work on that? Probably, okay. So, Council, what we can do here is work through a few agenda items now. Take time in this workshop. What we'll do here is we'll start with agenda item number 4. This is regarding a subdivision ordinance variance request regarding Welby Bank. And I believe we have Miss Ellie here that can speak on this item for us a little bit. This is the property right next to the Rayner property. So we've granted a variance like this before. I think they're asking for the exact same thing, but we'll let Miss Ellie speak to that.
Correct. It is adjacent to the HJR LLC, sorry. And they are asking for the same thing.
Okay, perfect. They need a minute to reboot the system. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We can continue to go. They're just rebooting the microphones, right? Do we need to pause, Tammy, or can we keep going? All right, let's pause. Let's 2-3 minutes. They'll reboot and then we'll continue.
The variance is.
There is existing right-of-way on the south boundary of this property, same as the property on the west side, known as HJR LLC. So they're requesting to not dedication of right-of-way and not constructing road and sidewalk on the south portion, south boundary.
Yeah, the south boundary.
In the back of it. Okay. Thank you. I think I understand.
Yeah, so it's, Mayor Pro Tem, it's the exact same one we gave to Rayner. So it wouldn't make sense, my personal opinion is it wouldn't make sense to require them to, or not approve their variance, but yet we approved the property right next door. And it would just make it wonky behind their properties there. Okay. Council, we'll go to agenda item number 5. And then we'll go to consent agenda item number 9. So number 5 is another subdivision ordinance variance request, and it was recommended favorably by PD&Z with a 6-0 vote. So Ms. Ellie, can you tell us about this one?
Yes, this is a subdivision variance request for 2.27 acre tract of land located on 8134 Belcher Road, zoned open single family residential, and the owner intends to build a single family home. Under Chapter 62 subdivision ordinance, side lot lines must be substantially perpendicular or radial to the street, and also flag or key-shaped lots are not allowed. This lot has approximately 20 foot of frontage and a flag-shaped lot. So the applicant requests a variance to waive these requirements. And we had similar flag-shaped lot. On Patterson, they applied for same variance, and in 2024, which they granted variance. Staff found the request reasonable, consistent with prior approval, and not detrimental to public health and safety, and recommends approval with the conditions in the data sheet. PD&Z also considered it in the March 23rd meeting, and they recommends approval with conditions, with motion passed 6-0.
Thank you, Ellie. Council, any comments or questions? Councilman Bonner?
Yeah, Ali, one of the things that I think I remembered correctly was y'all already had a plat on this, or not a plat, but a drawing that showed where the house would be located, and it still met all the boundaries and...
There is a survey, yes.
Okay, he's already...
I attached it to the packet.
Seems like that was the only question, was they wanted, PD&Z wanted to make sure that the house was not going to be right up against the narrowest part, or...
Yes, correct. And one of the conditions covers it. So one of the conditions is, I think it's the last one. It says, building line, setback line shall be established significantly perpendicular to the 482 feet long side property line in a manner that the lot width measured at the building line, setback line is minimum of 120 foot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Council, any other comments and/or questions? Okay, hearing none. Councilman Bonner requested that we speak to consent agenda item number 9. Councilman Bonner?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a couple of questions if we know the amount of the allowance now for that mud, and if we know the amount of the current bond request that they're seeking.
Bobby, Tammy, Rosie, do you guys have that information, or can you get back to us on that information before we get to the consent agenda?
There's an exhibit in the packet that they've submitted to us that shows their bond, their amount of the interest, debt service, everything. I'm trying to see if it's totaled at the bottom. Maybe Rosie can decode these financial statements. I don't know, but it's in the packet and the...
Yeah, it looks like we have the letter, we have the resolution for consent, and then we have this specific bond issuance. Councilman Bonner, I think your question is you want to know what total they have already issued on top of what they're asking for now. Is that correct?
Not necessarily what they've issued. What was the allowance at the beginning that they asked for?
Oh, what did they authorize? Okay.
Versus what they're asking for now. All three would be good information to know.
So this one is for the preliminary official statement dated March 20th of 26 for a $3 million unlimited tax bond series 2026.
Okay, it looks like 5.5 million, I think.
Thank you, Mayor, that's all.
Okay. And Councilman Bonner, I think I like where your head's at, and maybe this is a point of feedback that moving forward, anytime a MUD is asking for us to consent to debt, they need to provide us, on top of everything else, 3 pieces of information. How much did they originally authorize at the creation of the MUD? How much debt have they issued already up until this point? And then how much do they have left remaining? I think that's a big public transparency item too, because we know that they want to issue 5.5 million. How much more do they have left? Now, MUD 29 is a little bit unique because they operate their own water and wastewater plant, but I think that's important information. Councilman Bonner, I think that's what I'm deciphering of what you're...
Exactly. I think so many people in Manvel that are in MUDs have no idea the debt or what it could go to and where they're at right now. So I understand, pretty much we're going to grant that they buy the bond. They have to because they've got to maintain the subdivisions. But it'd be nice to let the people in these subdivisions and under these MUDs know exactly where they stand.
Thank you, Councilman Bonner. Council, any comments or questions on that one? All right, let's try to get through possibly 2, maybe 3 more agenda items, but we'll take a break at 5:55 for the regular meeting at 6. We have 2 items here, agenda item number 6 and 7, that are resolutions to call for a joint public hearing. Joes, do you want to speak to these a little bit? I believe we're not being asked to make a decision on the substance of the public hearing, but just scheduling a joint public hearing.
Correct. So item number 6 is a resolution to call a joint public hearing with the Planning, Development and Zoning Commission. This is to consider a revision or an amendment to the zoning ordinance to reflect items from a legislative update, recent legislative update, House Bill number 24, which gets into the process on noticing requirements of zoning change. So instead of having to send out notices to the entire city, we're having this joint public hearing so that at the joint public hearing, we can set a noticing requirement for that amendment. Item number 7 is for a PUD amendment for Meridiana. They are requesting for allowance for detached single-family unit within acreage which has been designated for townhomes, so that they have the flexibility to include detached single-family units instead of townhomes. So both these resolutions are to set the joint public hearing so that we can decide the form of noticing for both these zoning amendments.
Thank you, Joes. Council, any comments or questions regarding 6 and 7? Okay, Joes. Council, we'll go on to number 8. This is regarding the request to approve a service agreement between the City of Manvel and the DIR CTS CSA, which is a lengthy acronym for a name. Chad, yes. I believe you have this one?
Yeah, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This item's in front of us today. Comcast has moved its administrative items such as billing and pricing over to an entity called DIR, which is part of the buy board. In order for us to continue with Comcast, we need to be a member for DIR. This agreement we've looked at, we brought this to legal. We didn't see anything as far as in the service agreement that would be anything detrimental. So we're asking for approval on that tonight.
Thank you, Chad. Council, any comments or questions? Councilman Bonner?
Cost? Is there any cost to it?
From my understanding, talking to Patrick this morning, this was have no cost impact.
Thank you.
Good question, Councilman. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Councilwoman?
Is this for our services that we currently purchase from Comcast, or is this to be able to have Comcast delivered to residents?
This is for services that we currently have with Comcast.
Okay, so basically what it is saying is that they're no longer going to be direct billing us as Comcast and BC. It's going to go through these.
Everything, yes, ma'am. Everything on the administrative side, such as prices and billing, will go through the entity DIR.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, agenda item number 9. This is regarding declining a default increase in rates for telecommunications right-of-way access. Tammy, can you talk to us about this item?
So on this one, and we did it last year, so if you deny the increase, it's no action, it would automatically deny, but we put it on the agenda so you guys can make the decision if you want to deny it and keep the rates the same, or if you want to take action on it and not deny it, then it would go up to the CPI increase, which is 1.1157% of an increase. Now that difference is yes, it costs a little bit more on the customer side. However, it's also dollars coming in on the franchise side. So the determination would be which way council wants to go, if they want to leave it the same and do nothing, or get that CPI increase for the sake of the revenue for the CPI that it brings in. And I can give you the breakdown. For the residential, you'd be looking at a 0.3 cent increase. Non-residential would be 0.16, and the point-to-point would be a 0.23 cent increase.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, any comments or questions regarding this agenda item?
So if we deny it, and they say, okay, so they don't get a rate increase, they just wait till next year and then...
And it comes back to y'all again.
And it's more? It's going to cost more, though?
Not if you deny it again.
Oh, so we keep denying it.
You can, yes. So on one end, it passes through to the residents and comes in as a franchise cost for revenues on the city side. On the other end, the city, they continue to do the work. Somehow those expenses get spread out, and it just doesn't come back in the franchise.
Good question, Councilman. Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this agenda item? All right, hearing none. Sounds like right at the end, the echo went away. That's what it sounds like, so praise God for that. So council, what we'll do is we'll take a 7-minute recess here, and then we'll begin at 6 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you for a productive workshop. We will officially call this Manvel City Council meeting to order here at 6:05 p.m. For tonight. I will lead us in the invocation tonight, so if you guys are willing, please close your eyes and bow your head. Father, we take a moment tonight just to say thank you. Thank you for all that yesterday meant with the resurrection of your Son. As we gather here tonight, we ask for wisdom, insight, grace, and unity. Anytime that we sit in this room collaborating between council, staff, and our community that we serve, sometimes the decisions are not easy, they're not fun to make, but it's worth it. We love this town, we love this community. I ask that you help us be good stewards of this gift that you've given us, because we want to represent you well through everything we do, everything that we say. Give you all the honor and all the glory. Pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen. If you guys... Actually, no, sorry. I was going to jump ahead. We actually have an inspirational reading from Councilmember Rossi Knox. Councilman.
Thank you all for being here. So here's my little quote for the day. Some people want it to happen, some wish it would happen, and others make it happen. It's by Michael Jordan.
Thank you, Garrett. Next, we have the pledges. So if you can, please stand and join me in saying the pledges. Thank you, everyone. And I want to apologize in advance for a little bit of the echo that you will hear. Our team has done a great job to minimize it. They'll be doing a full reset of the system tonight, but we appreciate the understanding. We will move into our presentations. And first, we have Ms. Bria with us here tonight. Ms. Bria, if you can make your way forward, she will be giving us an update on Actions, Inc., Brazoria County, and opportunities for the city and Actions, Inc. to continue to work together. And after the presentation, Ms. Bria, I would like to immediately turn it over to Mayor Pro Tem David Lance, who has something that he'd like to say. So, Bria.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Bria Canopi. I'm the Executive Director for Actions, Inc. of Brazoria County. I was here last February giving you all an update, and unfortunately I suffered a major stroke 2 weeks later, so please forgive me if I lose my thoughts or my words. I am trying very hard to give you a good update tonight. I know you have a couple new faces on council since the last time I was here, so I just want to give you a quick rundown. If you're not familiar with Actions, we are a nutrition and transportation program for seniors 60 and older all across Brazoria County, and we are deeply grateful for the partnership that we have with the City of Manvel to serve the seniors who live in your community. Last year, overall, as a county-wide organization, we served a little over 130,000 meals to Brazoria County residents, and we provided nearly 18,000 medical and non-medical transportation trips for seniors. As you know, transportation is a struggle for a lot of seniors in our county. Manvel numbers that we had, we're serving roughly 150 seniors with a Manvel address. Some of those may fall in your ETJ. The majority of them fall within your city limits, and it may be one of the 3 programs that we provide. For the first 5 months of this fiscal year, we've served a little less than 2,000 home-delivered meals within Manvel city limits. Last year, we provided roughly 400 transportation trips for Manvel senior residents. And if you remember, we discussed the opportunity to have some type of senior center in the Manvel community, and with my health issues, we weren't able to move forward with that. But we did provide 400 meals to Manvel residents in Alvin and Pearland senior centers that we have currently operating. So there's still definitely a need. Our plans just kind of got put on hold, but we would absolutely love to look at that with you all and see if there's something that we can do to partner to provide something more local for those seniors who are traveling to those other 2 centers. We currently have 6 people on our home delivered meals waiting list within the Manvel city limits. Unfortunately, we had to put a hold on onboarding new clients as of October 1 we received a 58% budget cut from our friends at HGAC from our federal funding. And so we had to put the brakes on onboarding new clients. We're hoping in the next month or so to start being able to slowly add some people. Of course, we will look at need, seniors 90 and over, veterans, of course, we'll make sure that we get to those clients as quickly as possible. It's just going to be really slow onboarding. And so if you have seniors in your community who are in need and they're voicing concerns about the timeliness of us being able to onboard new clients, I just want you to know the budget cut that we're looking at. But we are diligently trying to partner with new entities, new organizations, and try to fill those gaps because our waiting list is growing just like the senior population in the entire county is, and they kind of coincide with each other. So we know the need is going to continue to rise, and we're doing the best we can to try to fill that gap so that we can start onboarding again. That's really all I have as far as an update for you all this year. Do you have any specific questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Bria, and I've been following, through our relationship, your recovery process, and you've made such progress over the past year, and we're lucky to have you here with us and continue serving our senior citizens.
Thank you.
You've been in our prayers. Mayor Pro Tem Lands, I wanted to turn it over to you here first.
Thank you. How are you, Maria?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. I have two things. One, is there anything the city can do as far as help getting the word out there to our other citizens, our other business owners about trying to collaborate and getting funds to help your group? Is there, how are y'all reaching out now?
Primarily word of mouth, social media, mostly word of mouth. We are getting a phone, it may not necessarily be from the city of Manvel, but we get a phone call every day of someone else needing our services.
Right.
I think we're doing okay getting the word out. Unfortunately, we just don't have the resources to onboard as quickly as we would like. That's our biggest hurdle right now, I think, is when people do find out about us, our awareness is growing. It's having the resources available to meet those needs that people are requesting.
Okay, well, I would be open to sitting down one day at lunch with you and discussing some avenues that maybe we can assist on that.
I would love that very much.
And also, I know all council, all the staff, we believe in what you're doing. The elderly and their needs it's easy to just put that on the back, not even, blindside, not even look at it, but it's there and it's all around us. And we have to help the elderly. And that's very near and dear to my heart. It always has been. And what I would like to do is, on behalf of the council and the staff, I would like to donate a check for your organization, $2,500.
Wow, thank you.
Could you come up?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Or you want me to come out to you?
I'm good.
So, we appreciate you very much. So if you could, come. Yeah. Let's get together. We'll work some things out. I would love that. Okay. Thank you, Bria.
Amazing. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilman Bonner?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if you could onboard 10 people tomorrow. You said you had 6.
Yes,
you're
sir.
trying to here in Manvel?
Yes, sir.
So if you could do 10, what's that cost?
For home delivered meals, our all-encompassing cost right now is about $2,000 a year per person.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So if with David's contribution here, and if you had 2 or 3 others like that, you could onboard those 10 people.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank
And I just to kind of piggyback what Councilman Land said. We're serving the people who built the communities that we're living in. If it weren't for the people that we're serving, you all wouldn't be sitting here today. And so it's truly, this is not just a job for me, it's truly an honor for me to be able to go out and advocate for the seniors that we serve, because we wouldn't have the communities that we have without the seniors who have come before us. And so it's not, like I said, it's not just a job. Your donation means a lot to me personally, and I just can't thank you enough.
Absolutely.
I know from experience of being on the board at Pearland Lines, we work with you every year.
Yes, sir.
And we try and find different ways. You're probably the best at what you do in the community. There's several organizations that do it, but you're the best at what you do of any of those.
Thank you. We try really hard. Thank you all so much for the opportunity to be here tonight. Any other questions?
Any other questions, Council? Councilwoman?
I'm just so thankful that for God and what he's done in your life.
Thank you.
And in your son's life. And, you know, been following you as well and praying for you since day one, since we knew what happened. And so it's inspiring to see you here advocating for others while you were going through your own trials and tribulations. So, Lioness, got you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Breer.
I'm going to slip out because my son is sitting in the parking lot. I still can't drive yet. So thank you all so much, and thank you for what you do for your community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Breer.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda for a presentation, we have a staff recognition of Mr. Ernie Means. Robbie, we'll turn this one over to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I have Ernie Means here, and I just want to congratulate him because the average time it takes to earn a Class A operator water license is between 4 and 8 years. Ernie accomplished this in just 4 years, an achievement that speaks to his dedication, work ethic, and commitment to excellence. Ernie, you and your hard work and the drive set a great example for people, for you and people around you. Congratulations on this outstanding accomplishment. And we're proud to have you on this team. And I'm going to give you this challenge going over and beyond. Thanks, sir. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate
you. You have anything you want to say?
All right, Mr. Ernie, we're not letting you go away too soon. So, Mr. Ernie, come back forward here. No, Coco. So if you, what's one of the most important lessons that you would say that you've learned from getting this license? And then we're also going to have you and Robbie stand up here for a photo with the team. So what was your top takeaway, you would say?
From getting the A license?
Yes, sir.
They don't just hand them out. There's a lot of work that goes into it.
And how many individuals in our state have a Class A water license?
There's about 1,500 A water operators.
And we have one of them right here in the city of Manvel. Awesome. Well, great work. Appreciate you, Ernie, and your service. For those that may not know, when there's a natural disaster and we have on-duty employees that come in, Ernie's one of them. He's making sure our water system is still running even when there's a storm all around us, and we appreciate that sacrifice, Ernie.
Thank you.
If you guys want to come forward, Robbie and Ernie here, we'll get your photo taken. Need big old smiles across those faces, all right? All right. Next, we have a proclamation that I'm going to recognize this month as Fair Housing Month. This is a proclamation we issue every year that shows our support for all Americans for home ownership opportunities, that we support programs that educate the public concerning their rights to fair housing opportunities, and that we do not discriminate against citizens regarding race, color, religion, sex, disability, or national origin as it relates to housing. That we're joining with the federal government, the state of Texas, and local jurisdictions across America in celebrating the rich diversity of our people to live where they choose. And as the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Manvel, I do hereby proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in the city of Manvel. And then, council, for a moment here, we do have, we're going to adjust the order just very slightly, and we are going to move up our city manager update. Dan has a few special recognitions to give tonight as well. Dan?
I do. Thank you, Mayor, for honoring that request. And I did want to say one other thing about Ernie. So what I've always appreciated about Ernie is that he doesn't always necessarily tell you what you want to hear, but he tells you what you need to hear, and and that's good and bad both. So thank you, Ernie. Always appreciate it. So the first thing I wanted to do in the spirit of staff recognition, and sort of under the concept of our core values, and so the first person I wanted to recognize. It sounds like, now we're pushing 130 employees, but about 22 years ago or so, there were, would you say, less than 16 employees, if you can imagine that, running the entire city. And so two of those folks, one unpaid and one paid, are in this room tonight with Mayor Martin and Tammy. So I just wanted to recognize Tammy for 22 years of service to the city of Manvel. No speech? No. Okay. Well, and staying with the core value of service, so tonight we asked Tyler Bergen and Darian Gonzalez and Sergeant Kahonik to come up. If y'all can just come up there, and I'm going to talk about you just for a minute. I'm not sure if everybody knows what this is all about, but it's pretty cool, and we've put together. Thank you, Alyssa and Tammy, for putting this together. We have certificates for all three of y'all. We're going to read this out loud first. So it says, in recognition of your quick thinking, teamwork, and commitment to public safety during a fire incident on March 31st, 2026, faced with an uncontained, rapidly spreading fire, you stepped in without hesitation, working together to connect to a fire hydrant and suppress it before emergency responders arrived. Your actions helped protect surrounding property and ensured the safety of the community. Your willingness to step beyond your expected role, take initiative, and stand shoulder to shoulder in service reflects the very best of the City of Manvel. The City of Manvel proudly recognizes your dedication, teamwork, and readiness to act when it mattered most. So thank you, gentlemen, for what y'all did, putting out that fire. So the sergeant is the one that brought it to our attention, trying to really highlight Darian and Tyler's work. Which is absolutely true, but then we're looking at the photos like, wait a second, you get some recognition too, obviously helping the guys out. So the way I see it, we've got three different core values that at least three value that we can recognize. Again, service, I would say engagement, and of course, safety. So Robbie and I have some challenge coins that we want to give to y'all, and then I think we're going to do a photo as well. Awesome.
Yep, we'll do a photo. Council, if you guys can join us around for the photo, please. Oh, here he's our short king. You're our short king. Harry. All right, Dan. Anything else that you have for the city manager update?
I think that's good for tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So now we're going to move on to the public hearing in council. The way this will work, we're going to get a staff presentation from Dan, Joes, and Gary here on the public hearing item. We will then have the public come forward pertaining to the hearing. We have 3 individuals that have submitted public comment forms, so we'll call those 3 individuals first. Then anybody else that's here wishing to speak on the subject of the public hearing, I'll do 1 call, 2 call, 3 call, raise your hand, we'll have you come forward and you can also speak. And then council will be taking action or potential action on the public hearing items. We're combining 2 into 1 there on the regular agenda, items number 2 and item number 3. The way that we'll structure it is we'll start for item 2, which is the comp plan. We'll go left to right, starting with Councilman Bonner, sticking to our rules and procedures of 10 minutes each. Then if there's any amendments that we want to make or provide direction to staff, we'll do so. And then for the thoroughfare plan, that will be next, and we'll go right to left for that one, starting with Councilman Rossi Knox. This is going to be one of 2 readings for tonight, so it will be an opportunity for us to provide direction, and then it'll come back before us at our next meeting. To keep it organized for staff, the way that we would do that is somebody would make a motion to direct staff to do X or to do Y, and then we'll take a vote to see if there's consensus. That way there's just very clear in the minutes and also helps keep things organized for staff. So let's first head into staff presentation on public hearing items. Joes, we'll turn this over to you first.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is an item that you've seen several times in the past year and in the year 2025. This is the process of updating our comprehensive master plan as well as the thoroughfare plan. In 2025 February, we adopted a strategic plan that laid out a vision and certain strategic goals for the community's future growth, and that became the basis for our comprehensive plan update. And right now we are on the concluding side of the whole process. In the past, we've had several public engagement exercises. We've had workshops with the Planning, Development, and Zoning Commission, who've made a recommendation to you regarding this proposed plan. And then we've had several workshops at the City Council meetings as well, where our consultant, Gary, with Kendick East Collaborative, have taken those input and provided a draft version of the proposed comprehensive plan for y'all's consideration today. And we have Gary here to provide you with a brief presentation.
Thank you, Joes. And Council, you do have the presentation in your packets. Gary, welcome. I think, we've had you here in front of us a few times, so we're very well acquainted with the process, but look forward to seeing this final draft that you have in front of us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and everyone. I know there's a few in the room who saw this presentation a few weeks ago at PD&Z, so hang in there, but there's a few changes, but it's to really get everybody on the same page on how the plan ended up versus interim drafts that you saw along the way. I've just been pointing out to everyone that the maps and the full plan are available on the website. If you search online for Future Manvel, this page on the city website should show up, and the maps and plan are linked there. So once again, this was updating the comprehensive plan that was done at a much different time 10 years ago in 2015, 11 years now. And so new proposed plan at where you are today. These plans are adopted at a point in time, but they are looking down the road 10 or more years typically. And also as part of this, we took a look at the thoroughfare plan once again, and that was last adopted officially in 2021. So some additional changes there as well. So this was done in a 3-phase process. We first looked at where you are today as a community. That was facts and figures. We then turned to the future outlook, and now we're in this final stage of potential adoption and a final round of input from the public, of course. So a few weeks ago at the Planning, Development, Zoning Commission, they did recommend adoption, and we certainly opened up for other recommendations along with that overall recommendation. The one change there was on the thoroughfare plan. We've had a lot of discussion about the alignment on the east side of the city on the thoroughfare plan map that at one point overlaps with existing Markham Road. That was a parkway designation, one of the highest designations on the map. Originally, it came down to arterial. Their recommendation was to take it down to the collector level. So we'll talk more about that when we get to the map. So once again, in the Manvel Today stage, there's actually a Manvel Today report that we presented earlier in the process that will be an appendix to the plan, so that will support the plan. Survey that was done at that time, very well received, and other public events we did to kind of be the basis for this plan. As Joe's mentioned, an interim step was to adopt that strategic plan, which laid out some broader themes, which now have carried over into the comprehensive plan. And this diagram kind of illustrates kind of that starting at a very high level, broad strategic aims as a community. Now your comprehensive plan with the next level of goals and potential actions, and then your more specialized plans and your capital improvements program, the different ways that you as a city can put these plans into action and get down to specifics. So in the future Manvel phase, the comprehensive plan has 6 sections on different topics, typical building blocks of a community as far as the physical pieces of a community. So in each of those sections, there's discussion on those topics, but at the end of the day, these comprehensive plans, one of their purposes is to support your development regulations. So it's the public policy basis for what you do there, and also the thoroughfare planning. So I highlight the future land use section and the transportation section. And so we'll go a little bit deeper on those. I also want to highlight that in all the sections of the plan, there's this accomplishments page. We really like to highlight things that you've gotten done as a city and as a community based on your past planning, and keep that ball rolling. So on this one slide are a number of key words. The comprehensive plan, as is typical, has a number of goal statements, things you're trying to accomplish or reinforce over time. So these are just some of the key words, hopefully a lot of familiar words there that also, again, feed back to that circle of themes from the strategic plan. So based on those goals, the future land use map was one of the new pieces of this plan. And as we've highlighted in most of our meetings, the previous comprehensive plan did not have a map like this. It is fairly typical in comprehensive plans, and then that carries over to your zoning map. The zoning map is the regulatory map. This is a guidance and more advisory map, so it's broader brush than a zoning map. But some of the highlights on the overall map, and I'll give you some statistics here in a moment, but rural preservation in the light green is a fair amount of the northeast and some areas in the south of the city limits in ETJ. There's also, that's the darker green. The rural preservation is the darker green. The lighter green is estate residential, and that really lines up with a lot of your areas that are already zoned in the city limits for 1 acre residential lots, minimum 1 acre. And so that also helps to maintain a fairly open, more semi-rural atmosphere. The most intensive development on the future map is focused around the 288 corridor and also the Highway 6 corridor in terms of commercial activity as well. And then there's a category called master plan development. And this is, in your case, you have a number of large-scale developments, quality developments that were planned from the start. So in some cases, a mix of uses or a mix of different housing types or lot sizes in some cases, usually characterized by open space set aside, and then in this part of the world, stormwater detention that is used as design features and add to the openness in some cases. So, and then recreational amenities, pools, walking trails, things like that. So those are highlighted on the map where those have occurred. Commercial activity is focused towards your major roadways. So again, the map is reinforcing how things have played out over time and with zoning guiding that. There's an ongoing industrial focus, mainly in the far southeast corner of the city along Highway 6 near the railroad tracks. And then public facilities that exist today are called out on the map along with parks. As far as the different categories, you see kind of the spectrum from the most rural to more intensive development. And the plan itself talks more about kind of the mix of buildings, pavement, and open space as these factors that really determine your ultimate outcomes on the ground. If you think about it, a house can be in a downtown area. You don't have an intensive downtown, certainly in Manvel, but somebody can live in an urban situation. They can live in a subdivision fairly close to neighbors, or they can live on 10 acres and be far apart from everybody. So residential is the land use, and then you think about the context. So that's what these categories are about. And there's also a page in the land use section that talks about areas that might develop over time as commercial corners, commercial intersections, or areas along major roadways that might be more commercial. As we discussed in the text, in a lot of cities on this map or on the zoning map, sometimes there's a fair amount of commercial zoning that's beyond today's market. So this map is intended separate from the official future land use map to show areas that over time might be added to your future land use map as rooftops increase and commercial follows those rooftops, and basically commercial popping up in other areas off of the freeway, 288, and Highway 6. So that is in the section as well, but once again, not on the map. So again, here's some of the statistics, how the final map ended up. And these first ones are inside the city limits. So there's a pretty good balance of the different residential categories, each about 20%. And roughly 13% of the city limits on this map, again, this is not zoning, this is future land use, about 13% in commercial and industrial, so your main non-residential categories. And then almost half the city, 44%, is in either the estate residential, the 1 acre residential, or even larger property rural preservation, the darker greens on the map. And so that was a message from day one, that there was a desire to preserve the legacy, the rural history and flavor of parts of Manvel. So now this is looking at the rest of the jurisdiction, the ETJ outside the city limits. More than half, 50%, is in that large lot estate residential, the 1 acre. And then rural preservation is more in the city limits on the map. We did that purposely because it's something that you really can't control unless you have zoning. So the place where you can really make a difference is with your zoning to try and preserve rural atmosphere and larger lots. And then, but when you put those together, rural character obviously prevails on this map outside the city limits, roughly 2/3, almost 2/3. Going to the thoroughfare plan now, very high level. The major changes from previous maps is we're following more existing roads on this map than on the previous map. There were a number of alignments that were ideal alignments, nice straight curves and cutting across the area to make connections, but they were going through a number of properties. So there's a reason that existing roads are where they are. They're how people have gotten around historically. So the thoroughfare plan map does use more of those existing roadways, especially on the east side of the map in the areas that are shown for rural preservation and larger lot residential. The roadway network is a lot less dense than it was on previous maps. Alignments were taken off the map. Not that there's roadways that are there, but when you combine future land use and think about thoroughfare planning, the need either isn't there anytime in the near future or long-term not desired to have major roadways there. And overall, the continued focus is giving people ways ultimately to get across town, east, west, north, south. So that's the continuous roadways, the higher level roadways, and then especially around the 288 corridor, that there's alternative ways to go north and south and away from the freeway, east and west. At the back of the plan, there's a final plan implementation section. This talks about where you go from here with a plan like this. We pulled out 12 items from across the different sections of the plan as potential first things to focus on, and it talks about who might carry those forward, potential timing. And I'm not going to hit on all these in detail, but there's the table in that section. Some of these involve facilities. There was a lot of discussion about library possibilities from our public discussions. Some of them are more about programs, and some of them are more about next levels of planning. A Parks and Recreation master plan, for example, to set the city up for parks and wildlife and other grant opportunities. So it's a mix of action types, different time frames potentially, and then at a high level, different types of costs. The thing I want to mention about that section is there's discussion behind that table that this is just a starting point. These plans are meant to feed into your annual budgeting, your capital improvements planning, everything you do as a city. So this is an advisory document. And for some years now, I've always put this slide in because I had a previous council in another city ask, if we adopt this plan tonight, are we committing the city to everything that's in this plan? Absolutely not. It's just an advisory document. Nothing happens automatically by adopting this plan. Everything comes back to this body with this list, whether it's budget decisions, ordinances, amending or new ordinances, all your contracts that need council approval, grant applications and match that might go with those. So there's so many things that come through City Council, and the comprehensive plan is advisory. It sets a direction for the future, but you are ultimately still making decisions. And it doesn't bind future councils. That was the part B of the question in another city. There's a memo in the packet that after we did the final open house and also had some social media interaction, some questions about the plan, there's a memo that talks about some of the major items that came up there. And of course, the top one, and you may recall when we first brought the future land use map to council, the rural preservation area, that dark green, is larger than it started out. We expanded that area. And of course, we had great turnout from our residents on the east side of the city and the Markham Road area, especially for the thoroughfare plan, but their request was as much rural preservation as possible. So no surprise there. And based on that, and as I mentioned, the PDZ made this recommendation was to bring the Markham Road alignment on the thoroughfare plan down to collector from arterial potentially. So that's on the table tonight. There was also a request for on Del Bell Road. It's shown as Parkway right now on the major thoroughfare plan to potentially bring that down. And the concern was the road as it exists today and with homes in some areas along that road and the implications if it was a wider, busier road. There was also some folks that live along the Del Bella Boulevard. The current map has Del Bella Boulevard coming straight across into Del Bella Road, straight east-west. On the future thoroughfare plan map, it shows a potential change to curve the final segment of Del Bella Boulevard and connect to Lyra Road. And by doing that, it would be a more continuous connection. Of course, there would need to be a creek crossing there, bayou crossing to get across that and make that continuous. But so there was some feedback there from, of course, residents in that area, not concerned about that connection. They prefer that it stay on the map, but just stay straight east-west into Del Bella Road. And then there were some homeowners, property owners in the Pollard Road area where Pollard is shown on the map to extend northward. So they were concerned about where that might connect, but it is shown as a straight north line. And then just some other concerns about thoroughfare planning in general. So potentially after tonight and after several readings, if we do get to adoption, final step would be to make it available to the community and certainly internally at the city. So Mayor, I will leave it there. I'll be back when you have your deliberation later.
Great. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you covering a lot of items very succinctly and to the point. I appreciate that. All right, council, we'll now move on to the public hearing. I'll go ahead and read this out and we'll open up the public hearing. This is to hear input from the public regarding the proposed Manvel comprehensive plan, including a proposed updated major thoroughfare plan. We'll open up the public hearing at 6:42 p.m. We have 3 people that submitted public comment cards, so we'll go to them first. We first up have Miss Angie Alley. Miss Angie, thank you for being here tonight. If you could state your name and address for the record, the floor is yours.
My name is Angie Alley. My address is 8903 Quail Valley Drive, located in the ETJ in a deed-restricted community. I'm very thankful to have heard the desire to keep Manvel rural from the council and the PD&Z Commission. I am also appreciative that the proposed road down Markham Road has been reduced a couple times. But the fact remains that this 2-lane road will cut our neighborhood in half, bring thousands of people into our backyards, and forever change the peaceful nature of our homes. When I first became aware of the major thoroughfare plan, I asked why Patterson Road was able to be removed completely from the map. I was told placing a road on Patterson would have devastating effects on those who live there. I just want you all to know that each one of these roads on this map will have devastating effects for the people who live there. I understand the need for growth and progress, but I have also driven on 518 in Pearland on Saturday and see with my own eyes how negative overpopulation can be. When the proposed roads are developed, all of Manvel's charm will be paved over with concrete. I would not expect homeowners to maintain their rural properties when they have a traffic jam in their back acreage. I hope that the future members of council will be eager to grant zoning changes to the homeowners so they can sell to commercial investors and move to somewhere that is still interested in being rural instead of staying in Pearland 2.0. For now, I'm going to enjoy watching my kids play in our beautiful backyard, complete my farm chores in my pajamas, seeing the baby birds enjoy our birdhouses, riding our UTV without fear of being hit by speeding vehicles, and watching the sunset every night. I pray that my forever home will stay just that, and that we can keep parts of Manvel rural for the sake of our future generations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Miss Angie. Next, we have Miss Jennifer Curtis. Jennifer, if you can come state your name and address for the record.
Evening, Council. My name is Jennifer Curtis. I work with Meta Planning and Design. Our office is at 24285 Katy Freeway, Katy, Texas. I'm here representing a property owner on Belcher Road and Oilfield Road. I'm here to express our support for the change that PD&Z recommended to Markham Road to downgrade that road to a collector, and also to point out that there is, as Gary was mentioning, an opportunity to use existing right-of-way in that area. There's a paper street that exists just on paper. It doesn't actually exist on the ground, but the right-of-way has already been dedicated between Belcher and Oilfield that could be used as a collector route without taking any new right-of-way. So just, again, expressing our support for that collector designation and wanting to make you aware of that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have submitted comments from Miss Heidi. Miss Heidi, thank you for being here tonight. If you could do your name and address for the record, the floor is yours.
My name's Heidi Zemer. I'm at 21226 Creek Road, Manvel, Texas. I kind of wanted to first thank you guys because I think you really care a lot about hearing from us, and I think we're in a difficult position. I've lived in Manvel almost 25 years, and I did have discussions with our tiny little, staff in Manvel when I first was thinking of moving here. And I was told that the city would maybe in about 40 years put a road through there. And it was an entirely different situation because the city was going to basically take part of my land in about 40 years and put a road through there. And if it ever happened. And so I sort of thought, okay, I'm not going to really worry about it. I bought there. But what has changed is now there's going to be a right-of-way put through there. And, there's no road there now at all. It's right through the center of my horse farm. And I believe in growth. I know growth is here. I would rather have growth happen with you guys in charge because I think you are really doing a great job. But I'm worried that once you lay this right-of-way down there, future city councils and mayors will not really heed what we have to say. So I am fully supportive, please, of bringing that down to a collector or smaller if you can. I'd rather it wasn't there, but I'm also realistic. And also, I don't understand why we aren't compensated when we have a block of land and we are going to have a restriction put on that land. I literally, the place where this road is going to go, I was going to have a little retirement home built there. It's at the dead end of my property in the back. And that's obviously not going to happen because it's a big road that's going to go through there. So I don't think one person, me, should be able to dictate the growth of Manvel. I truly don't. But I don't also think you should understand it's not just lines on a map. It's just not lines on a map. And the other thing I want to say is just really think about the future because it's going to be said over and over again, well, we adopted this program, and when somebody in the future wants to say, oh, we're just going to upgrade the road, but it was really adopted years ago, you're setting a precedent that future city councils and mayors will be able to, look back on. So in sum, thank you for doing a great job in caring, because I can tell you guys really do. I know you're in a difficult position. I know growth is coming. And I just want to say that we are trying to keep that area rural along the Markham area. You'd be building a road right through the center of my barren 20 acres, and that's not to be taken lightly. And so please make the road as small as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heidi. Appreciate you being here. We'll do the first call for anybody wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing. Yes, if you could please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Appreciate you being here. The ladies beat you to it, though. They did the paperwork, so the ladies one-upped you, huh?
That was a hard one to follow, but I have something prepared, so I might as well say it. My name is Mike White. I live at 6405 Del Bello Boulevard, the old part of it. Good evening, everyone. Just gave my address, so I'm here to express my opposition to the plan in general, but specifically the little section on Del Bello Boulevard that I think mentioned connected to Lyra Road. I live at the end of that quiet little roadway. It's a dead end, serving homes and the rural properties there. And to my understanding, under this plan, it would become a 120-foot 4-lane parkway directly in front of my house. So I feel like that would effectively turn a once peaceful road into a direct highway access to 288. If you're familiar with what Croy access looks like, that's what the front of my house will look like. It's not necessarily an incremental improvement by any means, just a complete transformation of how this functions. There'd be increased traffic, higher speeds, noise, headlights, reduced property values residentially, potentially. And not to mention a lot of crime potential. If you're connected to a highway exit, I feel like that's just an opportunity to bring in crime. I'm also concerned about the wildlife there too. When my wife and I raised our kids there lots of years ago, we used to have deer, coyotes, predatory birds in our yards, but I don't see that anymore with all the developments happening. We have a lot of mature oak trees that were planted by Del Bello families in our front yards that I feel like would be removed if a road were to be put through there. Just a lot of sad. So I feel like it's good to grow. It's good to see how the city's changing, but maybe step back a little bit and think about how the size of these roads matter, and maybe not going too big too fast. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We'll do the second call for anybody wishing to speak on the subject of this public hearing, and the third call. Council, we did receive 2 written comments from the Rogers family and also the Liston family regarding Lewis, and they would like to see that downsized or removed from the map, so just take that into consideration as well. We will close the public hearing at 6:51 p.m. We have no other public comment cards submitted. Is that correct, Tammy? Thank you. We already received the city manager update. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Council, any comments and/or questions regarding the consent agenda? Just as a call out, during the workshop, Councilman Bonner asked about agenda item number 9 for future consideration on items, asking for additional information to help provide some clarity there. Hearing no comments and/or questions, do I have a motion regarding the consent agenda? We have a motion to approve from Councilwoman Sarmiento. We have a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. We have no items removed from the consent agenda. Coach Bass, if you want to start making your way up to the podium here, we have a regular agenda item number 1. This is consideration and possible action to direct staff on participation in the Alvin ISD Ames Award sponsorship packages. Council, this would be direction to staff to make the funding available if we choose to do this, and then they would bring forward a budget amendment to us. 2 years ago, we did a $4,000 sponsorship. Last year, we did a $5,000 sponsorship. So, Coach Bass, the floor is yours.
Thanks, sir. Mayor Dan, city council members, and staff and personnel of the city of Manvel, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here today. Do I need to speak up a little louder so y'all can hear me? I've got my coach's voice on, so that's just part of it, so I do apologize if it's too loud. But thank you for this opportunity. We're excited about standing here before you because of the connection that we have with the city of Manvel, with the city of Iowa Colony, with the city of Pearland, and also with the city of Alvin, with the Alvin ISD School District. You know, there are so many things that this district does in partnerships with the cities, and this is one of the great ones that we get to talk about here tonight. It's the Alvin ISD Athletic Department Ames Award. And Ames, it stands for Alvin, Alva Colony, Manvel, and Shadow Creek. And kind of like I was looking at the city on the rise, that's kind of what we were thinking about, that we're aiming for, that we're taking the future, our young people, and giving them a bright future. And that bright future does what? They come back to our cities, and they come back and be city councilmen. They come back and be mayors. They come back and be city personnel. And so these are the great things that we're doing. But one of the things we want to really do to highlight is we have the Ames Awards. And so this Ames Awards is kind of like the version of the ESPN ESPYs or the Oscars. If you've seen those, we want to highlight the successes of our student athletes, our students, community members, and also staff members. And the great thing about this, it's not just about the athletes, but let me tell you about the student athletes. And when you take a student athlete that is a varsity student athlete, and they're in season, they put in a minimum of 80 hours a week. Can you imagine some of y'all haven't put an 8-hour weekend to be successful? It's challenging, and I know some of the folks out here do that already. But when you think about tutorials before school, the academics during the school, practice after school, and then some of them stay a little bit later, do a little bit more practice, and then they go home and do their homework, it becomes an 80-hour week. And so what we did about 2 years ago, we want to come in just to celebrate the successes that they do, because so many times we just see what they do on the football field or basketball court or tennis court or in the pool. We want to show everything what these kids do, and it's amazing what they accomplish. So we started doing this about 2 years ago. We bring them up, and it's just an exciting, it's almost like a prom event. I mean, the kids dress up. It's just an exciting time. And what we do, we honor them. And what happens is that the head coaches of each sport nominate a student athlete from their program. And they also we have some other awards that might be the Community Member of the Year or Integrity Award Winner of the Year. And they nominate these individuals. It goes to a committee. We have a committee of about 12 people that take this, and they do a blind vote. And then they cast it, and then we bring them back on May 11th. This year it's May 11th, and it'll be at the Liberty Alumni Hall, and we honor these kids and community members. But what the neat thing about it, it's not just, we just don't just do them. We also have other groups that support it. We bring in the Culinary Arts Department. So before, when we start at 6 p.m., the Culinary Arts Department has been there all day preparing food for all the guests. Our cheerleaders are there. They celebrate when those kids get out of that car. And let me tell you what we did last year. We wanted to up it up a little bit. We brought limousines in. And what we did, we picked them up on the north end of the stadium, drove around the backside of the stadium to where the Liberty Alumni Hall is. They got out, and we had our school photographers taking pictures. It was like a paparazzi moment. And we asked those kids, what was the most exciting thing about this evening? They said, Coach, I've never been in a limousine before. That was pretty exciting. And so it's just we really want to honor these kids. And I tell you guys, if you haven't had a chance to be a part of it, you need to come see it. We'll have between 500, probably 600 people at this event. It's approximately about 120 student athletes, and then there's probably about 30 to 40 community members. They get all recognized. We shoot videos of them. They have a kind of a little hype video that we show about them before they get announced. And then the winner gets an award. And I will tell you, it's just exciting to see these young people, because when I look out there, I just don't see student athletes. Like I said earlier, I see future city councilmen. I see maybe a future politician, maybe a future doctor, maybe a future coach or a teacher that want to come back and give to this community. And it's just exciting to see that. But how does this work? The school district, we didn't want to take anything out of anybody's budget as far as with Alvin ISD. And so we went out and hit our community sponsors and our community members and our families. And we consider our family part of y'all's family. So the cities of Iowa Colony, Manvel, and Alvin have been very supportive. We hit some local businesses as well. And so everything that costs to put this event on is covered and doesn't cost the school district a dime. So I'm here today just to tell you we'd love for y'all to partner up again. I know budgets are tight across the great state of Texas, but again, what we're doing for the future of these kids and giving them an opportunity to shine, I promise you, puts them in prominent positions to come back and be successful, because ultimately that's what we want. We want them to be successful wherever. We'd love for them to come back to Brazoria County. I was raised in Brazoria County all my life. I ventured off to Arkansas, played football at Henderson State and got a degree, went to A&M for a couple of years as grad assistant coach, and lived in Baytown. But in 1989, I moved back to Brazoria County and lived in Alvin since and been a part of this school district for 30 years. And I've seen great things, but the great things that occur because of people like you that have a servant's heart to give to other people. So, I'm just here to thank you all for this opportunity to be here this evening. And I'm standing here. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate before I head home.
Well, appreciate you being here, Coach Bass. As y'all can tell, he's very passionate about what he does. First time that I was able to sit down with him in his office, 2023, he brought me out into the hallway and showed me blocking moves that he taught his guys with footballs. And he's like, this is what you got to do. And I was like, oh, whoa. Brought me back to high school days there. So, Coach, we appreciate you being here. Speaking for myself, I love that we've been able to partner with you guys and sponsor this the past few years. We'd love to see us do that again. But Council, I'll open it up to any comments and or questions from you guys. Okay. All right. Hearing none, what I'll do, Council, is I'll make a motion to provide direction to staff on participation in the award sponsorship packages at the $5,000 amount, same as we did in 2025. Do I have a second? We have a second from Councilman Oplager. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, Coach Bass. Have a safe drive home.
Thank you very much. Take care. God bless you.
All right, Council, this is agenda item number 2, consideration possible action to approve the first of 2 readings of ordinance 2026-0-10. This is specifically for the comprehensive plan that we got an update on during the public hearing. Dan, Joes, any additional information you would like to provide for us until we open it up to Councilman Bonner? Nothing from either of you? Okay. Councilman Bonner, we'll turn it over to you first.
Yeah, I want to thank you for the job that you've done, you and your team putting this together. It's been rough sailing, I think, a little bit, just because it's a lot of first times for people to get to come and look at all these maps and pick up a dot and put on a piece of paper for trying to understand, is their input really matter? And I think now that we get to this point, I feel like citizens should start to see that it does matter. And that's what we as a council want, is it's not just about us 7 sitting up here and listening to staff and saying this is what we want. It's about what we should be doing is listening to the people. For me, it's caused me to make some changes, I think, in what I originally thought. Until I listened at PD&Z meetings and saw the output on the last rounds of people coming before and talking about it, I had told a developer, bring me some half-acre lots and I'll look at it. Now in the rural area out there, I want to see somebody that brings me, like I said, that last thing in the meeting that night was, somebody's got to come to us one of these days and respect that what we're trying to do is look at an area that needs 1 to 5 acre lots. And that can cut down on the traffic that maybe we can reroute a road. And I'm not completely sold. A lot of people need to understand that just because the road is on a map right now doesn't mean it's going through. They can look at the old plan that we had before this one and see that. People talking about Lewis Lane, I was a big proponent of stopping that at Cemetery because it just didn't make any sense to make it a bigger road. It's got schools on it, it dead ends in the high school. That's not going to alleviate a traffic problem. Markham, I understand the pain there. I can see why people are so passionate about that. And the growth's going to happen south of them. I really want to try and preserve what we can. Everything on the 288 side, like the gentleman said, we've lost everything that those people moved out there for with all the growth that's happened. There's not as many birds and animals and quiet at night, and there's more light pollution now. Every place out that way as the business grows, and I get that, but if we have an area where we can try and prevent that, every day I kind of change my mind a little bit more, and I'd like to see that. I can't sit up here and talk about the things that I'd like to see with parks and to have these, parks that offer places that you can go and just sit, maybe not have a child play, but you can have a child learn about how to preserve something, and then talk about putting a subdivision right out there where we don't necessarily need one right now, and especially not one as dense as what they're talking about. So I hope people understand it's a hard thing to do, to try and please everyone. You can't. But I think that we should be listening to the majority and what they're saying and try and move on from there.
Thank you, Councilman Bonner. Mayor Pro Tem?
I would like to echo just on what Keith said is, developers are going to want to come into our town. And if you have a acreage, a landowner, and they're wanting to sell their land, they're going to sell it. What we can do and what we must do is hold tight on our beliefs on the 1 acres, the 1 acre tracts, and don't go down from that. Say, when you bought that land, that 20 acres, 200 acres, whatever, you should have done your due diligence. You should have seen that it was 1 acre tract minimum, and that's what we're going to hold you to. And don't come thinking that we're going to sway council, we're going to sway staff, and we're going to put in 50-foot lots, because that's not what it's zoned for, and that's not what we want. So a word to the developers: talk to us before you go spend millions of dollars on land thinking you're going to change us. Let's change you first. Thank you.
Give Mayor Pro Tem Land some snaps for that, right? Councilman Oplager.
So many years ago when we passed zoning, so first I want to thank you for your effort and all the work that you did. You know, many times I'm sure it felt like people were throwing darts at you, you know, because writing a process like this is difficult. It's a living document. So thank you guys for your work. But, so way back in 2000 or so when we passed zoning, right, we didn't have a plan in place. What we knew is that Manvel needed to have some organization to it, and we had to have some structure around it. And we didn't have anything, and it started from there. In 2000, and we've been building these processes and developing these processes over the years. And I'm comfortable with the processes. The hard part about what we do, and kind of what David was talking about, is that government is a dynamic thing, especially our government, right? Every year you could have a new face sitting up here. Every year, right? Now, while one group of body is going to hold firm on a position, I can't speak for what others are going to do. I don't know. I just, you know, they could look at our plan, and they, to David's point, they could come in here with that cell, and it'd be up to the governing body to approve it or not. But this is where our position, this is our line in the sand. This is what we like to see, right? I like the rural setting. I live in the rural setting. I don't like light intrusion. I like watching birds, right? I think that's the neat thing about our community, right? It's just really the neat thing about it. And I think you may have mentioned, and I know I've said it, you know, I've seen other communities in our neighborhoods that didn't have plans, and they grew up way, way too fast. And then it's just gridlock. You know, and I feel sorry for them. But I'm comfortable with the work that's done, again, because these documents are living documents, and it gives us a guideline, or future councils' guidelines to look at and consider. I hope they read it, right? That's the other thing. The devil's in the detail. Please read it. But I'm comfortable with it, and I appreciate the feedback of everybody in our community, because that takes a little bit of work for them to get up and come out and say what they want to say, because they have skin in the game and they care as well. So, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Oplager. Just to echo the points, thank you, Gary, to you and the team. Thank you to the community. Thank you to city staff. I mean, facilitating a lot of this. Our boards and commissions, our Parks Board, PD&Z, EDC, their strategic plan. This has been building up for, 2 years now, almost, and it's been a process. So there are questions and comments I have, getting very much into the weeds, that I've sent to staff, and I know they're working on responses to that. Dan, when we get those responses, I think distributing that to all of council regarding some of the financial numbers, water, wastewater, et cetera. Not going to dive into that tonight. One of the things I appreciated, Gary, about what you guys have proposed is the action plan, or the call to action, we'll say. It had what, the acronym SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely. It had that. I've seen plans that they said 90% of the goals have to be accomplished in year one. And that's not going to happen. So you saw some that were aggressive, some that it's a 10-year possibly for certain items. And what you said during the presentation that stood out to me is this is a baseline. Things are going to ebb, things are going to flow, and things are going to adjust over time. One area that I would like to call for council that I personally would like to see changes on, you'll find it in page 47, starting in page 47 of the document. It's where we start talking about land use and community character. You know, when I see statements such as, in general, and I'm quoting from the document on page 46, it says, in general, the ordinance needs greater focus on development character and design rather than a typical zoning orientation that basically making it a little bit more flexible. And I don't believe that's the intention of this, but I think sections like that, we need to take a look in there and rework those, because what I believe we're trying to say is the design characteristics of businesses or development along 1128 and Masters might be different than what we see along 288. For example, sign heights was a great example. I think that's what it's trying to say, but this could be interpreted by developers in the future as something that our community doesn't want. They've told us that they want us to be stricter with our zoning, that they want us to be more selective with what we allow to come, because they don't want it to be overdeveloped or over commercialized. Another call out, council, for us to consider, and I believe this is just in here because it's a draft, we need to be careful about committing ourselves to any future work as it relates to this using one specific consultant or the other, just because whether we do that in-house, whatever a future council wants to do, we just need to make sure those lines are cleaned up.
Mayor, if I could ask, is that the reference to preparation of a development evaluation, regulations evaluation?
Yeah, that section.
That's actually in our scope of work. So that's something we're already going to be doing.
Okay. Well, let's just maybe be careful about that and just review, team, just to make sure that there's not other references within here. I am not, council, supportive of adding in what is an additional zoning district. You know, we have open single-family residential, which is 1 home per 1 acre. This proposes incorporating an additional district from 6,300 square feet up to 1 acre that we don't currently have. Our baseline, what I heard Mayor Pro Tem Lands and Councilman Bonner, what I heard you guys say is we like having the OSFR. And then that allows us to say 1 home per 1 acre, and if you want to do something different, then we take it on a case-by-case basis. Allowing something in between by right, I like having the requirement that developers have to come before us, but most importantly, they have to come in front of the public, which is extremely important. And then the other thing for consideration here, council, is a unified development code. I talked with Joe's, our Director of Development Services, about this, and there's pros and cons to a UDC. A UDC can be very good because it organizes all of your development codes. Sometimes it makes them very easy to read. Where I've seen cities have challenges is cities that do it the wrong way add in an extra level of bureaucracy into the process that hurts small businesses and hurts landowners that want to just build a single home on their property. Also, if we want to change something, I've heard it stated in other cities' meetings, we have to go through this entire UDC rewrite, this huge, lengthy, expensive process in order to just change one small thing in the UDC. So when we talk about the language in here, I just want us to be very, very careful there. I think there's really strong components and organizational components of a UDC. But we would just have to put a lot of thought into if we ever want to go that route and weigh out the pros and cons. Joe's has a lot of experience with this, as I'm sure you do, Gary, too, from different cities Joe's has worked with. We talked about that. But those are some things, council, I know. I'd like to see us move forward tonight, at least to get it to the second reading. But if you're open to it, take a look at that section, provide feedback to Dan and staff. I think there's just some opportunities to rework the development regulations and land use just to fine tune that a little bit. But I read through, Gary, all 141 pages over multiple days, and there was not much criticism that I could find. I looked at it from.
Did you sleep well? Did you sleep well after that?
Gary, I never sleep well. And I looked at it as, how can I pick this apart? How can I criticize it? Where are there holes or there gaps? And there weren't a lot. And so job well done there. But council, at the end, I'll make a motion to provide direction to staff regarding that. Gary, Joe's, Dan, do you guys want to, from what you've heard from the others and what you heard from me before we move on to the other three, any comments, feedback that you guys want to add to that so far?
It is your plan. It's still draft. So separate conversation. I'd love to hear what those communities are that have trouble with UDCs, because that's not our experience at all. So
I'd be more than happy to talk with you about it off the record.
yes, and that is purposely set apart from the action items as a consideration for the future. It's not meant for today. You may reach a point where that makes more sense for Manvel.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Gary. All right. That's all I have, Councilwoman.
Hi. I was just going to say, so I unfortunately don't live on the rural side of Manvel. I've always been a huge advocate for growth, and I am definitely on board with a lot of what I've seen in this plan. The one thing that I was going to just say is that I believe it was the gentleman in the back saying that we should just be careful of growing too big too fast, or sorry if I mixed up your words. I think that's just something that we need to keep in mind, because we do have the opportunity to avoid a lot of the challenges that we see Pearland having right now. So just keep that in mind. And I also completely understand one of the ladies, when they were talking about the annoyance of the road, how big it is, keeping in mind, their land. And I just think that those are things that we need to not lose sight of.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Sarmiento.
Well, thank you so much for all the effort that everybody has done putting this together. And I really echo the sentiments of our council. My biggest fear, and I've said this multiple times, is to her point, is we're only here today, and we have no idea who is going to run for council with what intentions. It could be a developer. You never know. And my biggest fear is that someone in the future who's not from Manvel, who doesn't love Manvel, who has zero roots here, but looks at it like a possible treasure trove for them, will run for council, and they will have the ability, it's just one vote, but still there's influence there. And we are not all going to be here forever. And so as much as we can do today to protect what our desire is, that's where my heart leans, and I'm not going to back down from that. No matter how much longer I have on council, that will be something that I echo from anywhere at any point in time. One of the things that I am 100% against is Lewis Lane, because that's to me that is like the heart and soul of original Manvel. And I think that protecting that is crucial. And you guys have heard me say this time and time again over the last 3 years. The development can come. Yes, we need to prepare for it with the thoroughfares. Development needs to come and the industrial on the other side. And I think that we're doing a great job by putting this together. But there are certain streets that I would like to protect and make sure that they stand protected. How we do that moving forward, I think that that's something that we can look at later on, because like you said, it's a living document. But thank you for all that, hard work, effort, and to the community that participated, because we have seen time and time again, everybody has a loud voice on social media, and then you give them your cell number and they don't call you. But thank you to the people who take time out of their day to come to speak, to be heard, because we have thousands of residents and there's 3 that showed up to speak. So that says a lot. You guys need to step up. You need to get involved. We need to hear your voices. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman?
Thank you so much for being here. Obviously, I love the rural preservation aspects. It sounds like everyone's kind of combining the comprehensive and the, is that what we're doing? Combine the comprehensive and?
We're just comprehensive tonight. Right now, we'll talk about thoroughfare next.
Okay. Well, then I'll save my comments for the thoroughfare next. So I like the rural preservation.
Thank you, Councilman. Council, now that everyone's gone through, we'll open it up for any direction that you guys might like to make. I know Council mine is just to provide direction to staff regarding some rework for the development regulation section. Would anybody have any opposition to some of that feedback that was provided? Okay. I saw a lot of head nods for that, just to rework. And so Dan, Joe's, Gary, I'll work with you guys on that. We can bring it forward at the next meeting for council's consideration then. Okay. All right, so council, I will make a motion to approve the first of two readings of ordinance 2026-0-10 with direction regarding reworking the development regulations section and to have this on our regular agenda at the next meeting for final consideration. Do I have a second? We have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Lands. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Next, we will go into agenda item number 3. This is consideration of possible action to approve the first of two readings of ordinance 2026-0-11. This is specifically regarding the thoroughfare plan now. Dan, Joes, Gary, anything that you guys would like to add before we open it up to council comments and questions?
No, I think Gary covered it pretty well. And if there are any specific input from you all, we may be able to respond to it.
Perfect. All right. Councilman Rossi Knox, we'll start with right to left this time, and then at the end, if there's any changes, we'll discuss those.
Okay, so two discrepancies, because those were talked about. What was because I'm looking at the map here, what was the reasoning behind curving Del Bella Boulevard up? Because, it jets over to the east. What was the reasoning behind going more north? Is that to correct directly into Lyra?
That was the intent for the continuity of, as I mentioned, big picture, looking for more continuous roadways. And again, all these connections and roadways are for a next level of Manvel, a volume of traffic that would require those types of right-of-ways. There's no reason to have a 120-foot right-of-way in front of a narrow road that just has a few homes on it. That's not what would happen. There's not the funding to make that happen. So it happens when development happens and when there's a volume of traffic in the pipeline to need that level of roadway. So yes, it's for the continuous connection east-west and then with the turn kind of northeasterly.
It is a difficult position because we want to work together and make everything work and find the right answer to all of these problems. That's a tricky spot. I definitely don't like the idea of it being on here because I've heard it mentioned before that if it's on here, it gives people the notion that, okay, it's on the maps, it's possibly going to happen. So I think maybe it also invites development too, in a way, kind of a cycle. So that's what concerns me about that specific spot. The Markham discussion, why was that considered? I see the reasoning possibly because you've got kind of these north to south spaced out across there. But if we're saying that the east side of Manvel is rural preservation, and these are our 1 acre, zone 1 acre, correct? By adding this, I feel like, again, it's inviting development, and it kind of changes the overall attitude of this whole area. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right. The only caveat I'd make is not added on the current and previous thoroughfare plans. It was a parkway, one of the highest level roadways, and it continued north of Oilfield and connected outside of the city toward the Alvin direction. It's been on the county thoroughfare plan map for that reason, because they're looking at bigger picture and the continuity aspect. So it was brought down from Parkway to Arterial on earlier drafts. It was stopped at Oilfield Road, so the continuity is not there. And now the consideration is whether to bring it down to Collector. And then that would depend on growth in the area that would justify the need for that type of roadway improvement.
So you said it's on the county map, is that what you said?
Yes, sir. The county has its own thoroughfare.
If they decide that they want to come and do something here, they have to have the city's approval. How does that work?
So Dan, do you want to?
Well, I was just going to say, so by and large, the city nor the county, have initiated any thoroughfare projects. So I just want to kind of back up. Whenever a developer comes in and they see 3 thoroughfares going through the property that they're about to buy, they do not get excited about that. It's quite the contrary. They're like, uh-oh, I've got to build all of these thoroughfares. So it's it's not a plus per se unless the city or the county were going to build them, which we certainly don't. Y'all know what our capital projects are like. We don't just go out and build roads. That's not the way we're set up at the moment. So most of these thoroughfares go back, like Gary's saying, to our very first comp plan from 2007. Had they not been on that 2007 plan, which I think was adopted in January of 2008, then you wouldn't have Meridiana Parkway right now. You wouldn't have Kirby. You wouldn't have some of these, very, very important roads. Because in general, left to their own demise, they're not going to just build you a thoroughfare road unless it's on a plan of some sort. Does that make sense? So they can always come back to council and say, hey, we want to deviate. We went through that with Valencia, where they could get the same type of a road profile in a smaller right-of-way in a couple of spots. Council acquiesced to that. Hey, we're still getting the road that we want. It can still carry the traffic, but maybe it can be narrower in this area because of a drainage right-of-way or something like that. So they're still going to have to come to you, back to council. But if you don't at least give them the idea that we may want something here, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, I guess. So, am I making sense, hopefully?
And if I could amplify on that, if there were any scenario where a road was built from scratch on the public side, at the county level, it's typically through a bond program.
Sure.
And there's an election. There's all the public focus on that. Certainly at the city level, there would be that same focus through budgeting, capital improvements, if that even happened. Most of these roadways happen through development.
Where the county really stepped up, the best example I can think of is in South Fork, the subdivision up on the northwest side of the city. They built that portion of Kirby. Pomona built their portion of Kirby. But where the two come together at the GCWA Canal, well, neither one of them wanted to build it. That's technically out of the city limits. So even if we wanted to, even if we had the money, we couldn't have built it. So that was a county-sponsored project to connect the dots and build that little bridge there. So that was perfect. That's exactly what they needed to do and come in and help. But in general, I think our asks for the county to come build roads are much greater than the county actually building roads.
And the two things that play out in communities that have been more rural in the past is death in the family. The lead property owner has passed. The descendants don't want the property. That's when it sells. Or certainly offers to property owners. So the fact that you're seeing some concepts, some proposals in areas that are on the map for rural preservation shows you there is property potentially turning over, or current owners have different thoughts for the future.
So even if we rallied against some of these and had these removed, is it a possibility the county could ever come through and build something? What's the likelihood of that?
They certainly wouldn't build something inside of our city limits. I want to say period, but they certainly wouldn't build it without our input. That part won't happen, but in general, they're not going to build a city road.
And my experience is more in Fort Bend County, and Joe's has some of that experience. The county is looking for congestion hotspots. They're trying to fix existing problems. They're not building roads out in the middle of nowhere. They're fixing intersections. They're addressing congestion points. So they've got a whole county of those to deal with.
It's just such a interesting situation, because if we remove it, then you say that there's a possibility that a developer could start buying up these people's property, and then boom, they build 2,000 homes there, come to a council that's not this council in 4 or 5 years from now, build 2,000 homes here, and then we don't have that road. Interesting.
And I should say, one of the options with the Lyra, that road specifically, the Del Bella Boulevard, the proposed change is the curve and connecting to Lyra, but the existing map is Del Bella Boulevard going straight east into Del Bella Road, which was another consideration. Typically, you don't want angled intersections like that, so curving it also makes a nice 90-degree intersection. That's the other reason. But so that's one possibility, is just leave that line as it is straight into Del Bella Road, and then it wouldn't connect to Lyra.
These red streets here, these are 2 lanes?
Let's see. Need to look at the map. The reds are the arterials.
Okay, so is that like a 2-lane with a median or 4, 2 going both ways?
In the,
Probably Parkway, right, if it has a median?
if you're in the entire plan, there's some illustrations a few pages back that show the different cross-sections, but typically arterial might have a median and then 4 lanes. But all depends on, at that point in time when they're into design, what are the demands, what's the traffic need?
Okay, one more question. This could be for anyone on either side. What is the likelihood of us doing one of these streets? I mean, cost-wise, it'd be extremely expensive, especially the Lyra one. But, you know, what would we have to do? Let's say we want to build one of these tomorrow. What would be the steps to do that? We'd have to have...
I mean, the first thing we would have to do is figure out how much we think it's going to cost, and then do we have that in our operating budget? Would you want to move it out of fund balance, or would you want to go out for, you know, to borrow money, essentially, issue debt through a CO or through a general obligation, a bond? We'd have to figure out how much it would cost, and then figure out how you want to pay for it. To my knowledge, I don't think the city has done that for any roads other than the ones that we're doing right now, but those are all repairs of existing roads.
And I would like to add to what just Dan said. I mean, this is the major thoroughfare plan. It's about your transportation and mobility within the city and connecting to the region. It's very tempting to look at it in isolation, but we also have the future land use plan that goes with it, and all of this is part of a outlook into the future goal, and it's not set in stone. Even and like Gary was saying, this is more of an advisory plan rather than a regulatory plan. So if things in future change, these could change accordingly. So going back to your question, if we are looking at constructing a street based on this thoroughfare plan, the first question to ask would be, what benefit would we get out of it? And if there's no benefit that we get out of it, it wouldn't make sense to put that road. However, if based on the future land use plan, if based on the zoning map that we've adopted, if there is development happening, then in terms of mobility, this street will give a benefit to the immediate area as well as connecting to the region. That's the purpose of the major thoroughfare plan. So when development happens, this emerges as a more urgent need. So you may have 10 different streets on the major thoroughfare plan. You may see, like Dan was giving you an example, we had McCoy Road was not as wide as it is today at one point. When Lakeland happened, they had to materialize that. Meridiana Parkway happened that way. But on that same major thoroughfare plan, you had Markham Road, which still hasn't happened because the development hasn't happened yet. But at one point, it is anticipated that, like Gary was saying, properties might change hands. And if and when that development happens, based on the zoning allowances at that point, when the developer's here, there's no way for the city to push, hey, based on your development, you need this wide of a right-of-way and this kind of street. There's no basis for us to require that at that point. So they would be able to build whatever they feel like and move on.
Yeah,
Sorry for that long
I appreciate that. That's, for the record, I'm not asking that question because I want to go out and build a road. I'm just curious what the feasibility is, you know, because some of these even scare me. I mean, this one on Old Chocolate Bayou would wipe out our entire tree line and a portion of our RV park and our livelihood. So, you know, some of these look scary. I was just curious what the feasibility is, what's the reality. You know, I understand the safeguard, they might be on here, but they might never get built. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I'm stuck because in a perfect Councilwoman Sarmiento's world, she would just take an eraser and erase all the red ones on this side of 288, all of them gone, away. However, realistically, and the right thing to do is to, I believe, now that I have the understanding that these red arterial lines here, for instance, when we're looking at Oilfield Road and that massive 800-acre land that at one point somebody is going to want to develop. If we don't have this on there, then we can't hold them. I don't foresee us holding them accountable to saying, if you do build and they do agree to do 1-acre lots, well, guess what comes with that? You got to build these roads, and that has to be part of, them coming to want to beautify Manvel. And if you bought the land here, you didn't do your due diligence, as Councilman Land said. But at the same time, we have to hold you accountable to this as well. And hopefully, future councils will understand that. I struggle with that because I've also been known to say, I don't care what previous councils said, this is a new council. I've been quoted saying that. However, I think that the heart and the intention is to protect the rural, and that's part of this. So I feel like I have a little more peace about these arterial forecasts, I think is the word. We would forecast these, but I don't know that this is something I would get behind today. But I think you answered all of his questions, which echoed some of my questions today. So that's more of a statement where I stand on it.
And the thing I'd mention is that slide about how so many things come back to council before anything happens. So thoroughfare plan amendments, updates, development proposals will come through PDZ, through staff review, potentially to council.
They still have to go through the process to get to us for us to make the approval for them to build any of these. And then they have to be allocated and budgeted, and the whole process still has to have its due diligence.
And that's the private development side. Certainly anything you did on the public side would go through all that process.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. So I'll step in now, and when Councilwoman Roby Robertson comes back, we'll jump back to her. Just some comments first, and then some ideas that I'll throw out, and Council, we can ultimately vote on these at the end. And just as a call out, Council, after we wrap up this agenda item, I'm going to propose we take a 5-minute break, and then we'll step back into things. The reality is, I think Ms. Heidi said it best. At some point, we're not going to be sitting up here. And that's where elections matter. And my concern when we talk about taking things off of the map completely, when you look at rural land, is that we could see in the future a development that happens that we might not vote for, but a future council would vote for. You might have in the future a more apartment-friendly council than what they have. An apartment complex, rezonings happen, and apartment complexes get built. That's not fear-mongering. That's the reality of what we're seeing happen in other cities. I look at two examples of why plans like these matter, and one was actually referenced by Ms. Alley, 518, and the other one is Meridiana Parkway. So 518, you have businesses that are having to close now because 30 years ago, it was not projected that the road would have to be a certain width, and so businesses built too close to the road. And now the state's coming in and saying, we're going to widen it. Businesses be damned. It's happening. And they're losing parking lots and they're having to close down. So when we take roads away, then it removes that protection from people building too close to what might be still a change in the future for a potential road. I would hate to see someone build their home too close or their mother-in-law suite too close, which we allow in Manvel, or any type of building that then a council comes in and says, no, we're going to eminent domain your land, we'll pay you from it, but we're also going to have to take down your building or your home as well. I see the ramifications of that. And, it's good to learn from the successes and the shortcomings of other cities. Other cities are doing that for us. There's a lot of good things that Pearland has done that we're learning from, but, 518, they're looking at, they're like, man, we wish we would have handled that differently because there's so much traffic on it now. That's my fear when we talk about taking roads off the map completely. I like lowering classifications, but I like still having a standard there. And Meridiana Parkway is the best example of that. Back in 2007, when the first thoroughfare plan was adopted, not in the exact layout, but Meridiana Parkway was there. If that had not been there, developers, understandably, they want to try to build as many homes as possible. They would have loved to, I'm sure, have used that land to build more homes and dumped out all of the traffic onto Masters, Jordan, and Clark. Imagine what would have happened to those roads if that had happened. So if there hadn't have been something there, that could have taken place. So I don't think as a city we're coming in and we're saying that we want to do this, that we want to build these roads, but it's if development happens, Because we've had people, council, I mean, we're sitting here and we have developers that are coming in now that are wanting to buy land from people that fought against growth for so many years, that now they're wanting to sell because they're wanting to make money, or as Gary said, the land's passed down a few generations and it's the families that have been fighting against growth that now are looking to sell to developers, and now we're saying no, and they get frustrated with us for saying no, but you elected us because you don't want the growth that you fought against for so many years, but now you want to participate in it. And it presents this unique challenge and dichotomy that's there. I'll get off my soapbox about that. I think Joe's, you said, Gary, you might have said it too, and I've talked with a lot of people in the public. The land use plan and the thoroughfare plan, they go hand in hand. I like that 60% of the land use plan is rural. I think that's such a big signaling to developers, and council, our wherewithal has been tested recently on that, and we said no to development that went against the land use plan that's been drafted. So that's a good thing. A few specific instances of this. I like that Markham is now down to a collector. I think that is a really good thing. But we're even seeing an example of a developer, a representative for a developer here tonight, that I bet they would prefer we take Markham off the map completely. Or at least realign it so they don't have to build it. Right now, they would have to build both lanes of it. We have developers that are looking all in that rural preservation zone because it's cheap land, that I'm sure they wouldn't want to build roads. And they want to dump all of those traffic onto the existing streets that we just fixed. So I like Markham as a collector. I think 99 needs to be more of the focus with the county, and we did have a conversation with the county about it. The county's recommendation to us in that conversation was to keep it on the map, keep it as a collector. They would lower their classification in the ETJ as a collector, but they would prefer that something stays on the map there. So I fully support it being a collector, and expanding the rural preservation zone signals we don't want development to happen there. But who knows, 6-9 years when we're not sitting up here, what happens? I hope it doesn't, but who knows? Council, if you guys want to take it off completely, I would vote in favor of that. But I have concerns knowing that developers are already wanting to not have to build the roads and what that means for the area. Lewis, I look at Lewis very similar to Patterson and Tankersley. Tankersley is not even on the map. We took off Patterson. I think large needs to be more of the emphasis. But I'd want to take a look at that a little bit more closely from an analytical standpoint. It's not going to go any further to the east or to the west. You have a lot of homes that are built there completely. But I know that we're looking at sidewalks on Lewis right now. And taking it off the map, I don't know if that's going to hinder our ability to do sidewalks. And I would just want to confirm that, because sidewalks are going to be very important there. I've gone back and forth as it relates to the Del Bello Boulevard. Initially, I was fully for it. It makes sense to smooth it out and to align with Lyra. But then I thought, we've made such an emphasis during this process of lining up streets with boundary lines and not cutting through people's properties. If we're going to keep that on the map, I think we keep it with its current directional pattern rather than cutting through people's property, which is something that we've worked diligently to change in this one. And I think ethically, we have to stick to that principle, because it doesn't make sense why we haven't done it here. We do it for that one. I get the smoothing it out, but I'd like to see that remain as is. I struggle with the width too, but I know that a lot of developers are looking at land in that area. Shea Homes was looking to expand. I actively know of 3 different developers that are trying to scoop up a lot of land in that area, and I'm concerned about what that means. So. Those are some of my thoughts, Council. When we get to time to make decisions, I'll bring forward some changes for consideration, but yep, that's where I stand. All right, thank you. Councilman? Oh, would you like to? No, you're good, okay. She passed it to you.
Thank you. Again, Gary, thank you for your work on this. Y'all have done a fine job. I know that there's some folks that are not going to be happy with whatever we do. It's just the nature of the game. I don't know. What I do believe, though, is that it's like the mayor said, people sell their land and change occurs, right? But without a plan, we would have an absolute mess. We would have, and so our first plan was 07, right? Is that right? Almost 20 years now. And so what the next plan would be another 5 years from now. Who knows what Manvel's going to look like in 5 years? It's hard to say, as fast as everything's growing. So, I'm not, I get it that there's some uncomfortableness there, but I think the plan is a good plan, right? And if we go with what we got, at least we have a line in the sand. We're not being gray at all, right? So if somebody wants to build, like Crystal said, here's what you have to do. So I'm good with it.
Thank you, Councilman. Mayor Pro Tem.
Appreciate that. I like it overall, except for the Markham Lane north of 6. I could see south of 6 because basically it lines up with existing roads and it's going through, looks like fields down there. North of 6, it looks like you're going right through a lot of individual property owners. And I'm just not wild about the Markham on north of 6. I haven't been out there. I don't know about this County Road 95C because that kind of jig-jogs around, but it looks like that could be a way to connect 6 up to Belcher and not go through all these people's properties. That runs just south of the Wolf Air Park. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I hadn't been out there. I don't know if that's even a possibility. But if there's an existing roadway in there to work with, instead of cutting through a lot of individual properties, I think it's something to work to at least look at. But that's about it. One small note: it doesn't add up to an awful lot, but up here at Furnace Road, Furnace and Old Chocolate, to the northeast of Old Chocolate, they show Furnace as a white line, as it typically showing it being paved, and that is not there. That's going through the backside of our property. There is an easement there for a roadway, but there's no road there from Old Chocolate to Mustang. It's just raw land, so I'm not sure that should be a white line or not. And then it picks up from Mustang on northeastward as a gravel road. But that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, Mayor Pro Tem, you said you would like to see possibly a focus on County Road 95C.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on down there.
That's Markham.
Well, it's going almost due north. It's like County Road 95, and then it cuts north 95C.
Yeah, so it comes to Quail Ridge, and then 95C is Markham.
Okay, but that's not the red line.
That is the red line, yeah.
Well, then I need to. Okay, well, what is Quail Ridge? Is that just a left turn off of Markham, and it dead ends?
Correct, and that is primarily all of Quail Ridge is within our ETJ.
Okay, and that black line that goes up through there, what is that black line?
The dark black line,
that's just a boundary?
Yeah, that shows the boundary difference between our city limits and ETJ.
Okay. I'm still not in favor.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
Councilman Bonner.
Again, thank you for all the work on this. This is, as we look at it, just looking at it, it's a nightmare. I'm not in favor of putting Markham through, but I'm also not in favor of taking it off just because of what you mentioned a few minutes ago, Mayor, about we sit here with a developer that would love for us to take it off. I wish there was some way we could take it off in certain areas. I wish we could figure a way to take it off from Highway 6 to where it would protect the people that are here tonight, and maybe pick it up at Belcher, because I don't see the purpose it's serving for north to south traffic versus 99 being able to serve as a north-south. I think eventually Belcher and Scopell Road are going to be your east to west travel out there. So maybe that's my one thing. If we could figure a way to pick it, if I had my choice, I'd bring it. I wouldn't even start it until, and I can't see what road it is, but somewhere even with I guess that bluish area almost to the boundary. That would get it out of the neighborhood where they wouldn't have to worry about it. I don't know. I guess the main thing I'm saying is I don't see this happening real quick anyway. I don't think this council, and like the mayor said, it's really up to the voters. You sit here and listen to this council saying that we're not going to probably even think about somebody that wants to build anything less than a 1 acre. I listened to an ad today about the developer someplace on the north side of Houston talking about 1 to 5 acres and how everybody was just wanting them. And then we listen to builders that are developers that say there's no value in trying to do that. They can't make their money back. Well, sooner or later, somebody will figure it out. And I'm not in a big hurry, and I'm not going to be here that long, but I'm still not in a hurry for the people that do have people that are going to be here for a while. I think there's plenty of room for putting neighborhoods way out towards 288. And then maybe we just say we don't need to get any bigger. I mean, we don't have to be a 70,000 person community. We need to figure out how we're a 40,000 person community with a lot of good tax base to support those 40,000 people. So I don't know what to do with Del Bello either. That's the bigger problem, I think. And the problem there is, again, like you said, landowners, right now, they're happy with their property and they don't want to see growth around it. But in 10 years, when they're gone and there's 12 descendants that have no thought process about keeping that property, then we need the thoroughfare plan to keep from something happening. So I guess overall, I'm for this. I too would like to see a little bit of tweaks, but that's just discussing with staff about, is there any possibilities?
Thank you, Councilman. Before we open it up to direction and some motions here, we will take a time for final comments or questions. One thing I want to hit on that I think Manager Dan mentioned that stood out to me, these roads on a map, they could also, if they're done strategically, they can be a deterrent to developers. Because when they see, I'm going to have to build 2 lanes of a big road and council doesn't want to move that road or council doesn't want to give a variance, they could view it as a deterrent. And that's something that I've thought of with this too, kind of just since Manager Dan made it. Councilman Bonner, one of the things I was thinking about that I like your idea, a big portion of Markham is in our ETJ. So whatever the county wants to do with that, the county can do with that. We quite frankly have no say, and they could go out for a CO bond without any voter approval and do it if they wanted to. But what we can control is within our city limits. I think the important one is the Markham between Oilfield and Belcher. So what we could do is south of Quail Ridge and CR 95C, that dotted line portion, just take that off. Then the residents over there can go petition the Commissioner's Court. If the Commissioner's Court will take it off, but also the development that we see potentially happening north in the rural land, that road's on the map for them to have to build it. I would be in full support of that. So any final comments before we open it up to some direction here? Okay, so yes, Councilman.
Okay, so all of these suggestions and even the new one of removing that portion of the city, okay, let's just say that we advance this forward and How, I mean, did y'all take notes on this? I mean, how do we know?
What we're gonna do is each of these items, we're gonna kind of get a thumbs up, thumbs down from council. This is the first of 2 readings. Staff with Gary will get in the minutes the changes, and then they'll call that out at our next council meeting from feedback from council. Here's the changes, here's how we made them. Are you guys good with this, or any other changes you'd like to see?
I just want to make sure that we don't advance this, and then we get to the next meeting and we're like, you know, we still have that on here, so.
Yeah, we're gonna go through a few of these. I've been making some notes about recommendations here, so. So first recommendation, council, would you support Markham being a collector, but also just keeping it in between Oilfield and Belcher? So the portion from 6 to CR 95C, we're moving that from the map. Would you guys be in support of that? Do we have, let me see, thumbs up? Any other thumbs up? Okay. So it looks like
Leave it between.
Oilfield and Belcher, so just the northern, only, correct. Okay. So we got 6 thumbs up there, so we got enough for a majority there for that one, so that's a direction item to staff there. Another one that we discussed was Lewis. I'll provide the direction that let's just take a look at Lewis to see what implications there would be for sidewalks, not advocating right now to take it off, but call out specifically to review in advance of the next meeting.
Just a thing to note, on Lewis, it already behaves as a collector. It's just that it's larger parcels compared to some of the other collectors that you see on suburban neighborhoods. So by definition, Lewis behaves as a collector between McCoy and Cemetery. And on the previous plan, there was a future extension going further east, which this version, we are removing that. So now Lewis is in between McCoy and Cemetery, I believe. And it's collector, it behaves as a collector. Now, in terms of widening and improvement, again, that may not even happen if no development is triggered. But in terms of sidewalk, there wouldn't be any restriction on putting in a sidewalk in the future if we need it, irrespective of what the designation is.
Thank you, Jose. So council, is there anyone, let's go Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilman Bonner. And then Dan, you saw your hand raised too, so. Did you have something, Mayor Pro Tem?
Just to clarify on Lewis, I mean, it doesn't have to go to a collector to have sidewalks. We can put sidewalks on it now.
Correct.
I know it's going to take some drainage work.
That is correct.
So, okay.
So irrespective of the designation, sidewalk can be put in.
Okay.
There's no.
That was my concern, so thank you. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah,
Councilman Bonner?
that was all I was going to say. I mean, the sidewalks could be put in it just by putting in culverts, which we're not going to pay for right now. We don't want to. I mean, that's a big money item. That'd have to be years down the line when we decide to do that. So I'm in favor of still leaving it like it is. Just, I think people just need to understand, we don't have any plans to widen it. There's no need to widen it right now that I know of. We figured out how to put sidewalks in it without it in a certain part that needs them. So we can get the school kids to the elementary school safer and to the high school. So I'm for leaving it like it's proposed to be, where it stops at Cemetery.
Perfect. Dan, did you have an item?
Yes, Mayor. Not to kick the dead horse, but on Markham, so I just want to make sure I captured it correctly. So where it starts from the south at Uzell, essentially an extension of Kings Drive, it looks like. So it would continue, that will stay on all the way up to Highway 6. And then it will not continue from Highway 6 to Belcher. Right? That part goes away? Is that what you're saying?
Well, what I would say there, Dan, is we cannot control what the county does
Right.
in their ATJ. So if you do the CR 95C, so from the portion of 6 to that road, that would go away. Whatever the county chooses to do in the county's jurisdiction. So the part that would stay would be from Belcher to Oilfield, and also everything south of 6.
So when we're talking about the road that goes from Highway 6 down to the south, that should probably not be called Markham then. It should probably be called Kings, I would guess, just to stay
good call out.
clear so that there's not a perception of, some future extension.
Yep. Yeah, I appreciate that. Good call, Dan. Thank you. And just a follow-up to the comments made about Lewis. Lewis between 1128 and McCoy, we're looking at a sidewalk currently along there. Is that correct, Dan and Jose? Okay. Okay, perfect.
Yes, sir.
And then council, the other item, so Lewis, anybody want to see Lewis taken off or keep it as is as a collector? Okay. Okay. The last main one I heard discussed, well, one was Furnace, just taking a look at that on the map just to make sure we have that updated. Because there was a portion showing that it's an existing road that's there. So we might just want to take a look at what Mayor Pro Tem Lands brought up. But the other one was Del Bello. Two components of it, the width of Del Bello and then the curve through someone's property for Del Bello. This has been on the map as the current width. My main focus would be the curve and just sticking with what we said, keeping along property boundary lines, not going through someone's property. Council, let's ask it first like this. Does anybody want to see the width lowered for Del Bello Boulevard? Lowered. The classification lowering from what it is now. We'll kind of break this up into two parts. So does anybody want to see it lowered from what it is now?
Right now it's designated as?
Purple, which would be Parkway, so 120 feet right of way. And that's what it is. I think you can see that if you drive through Del Bello, the subdivision.
Trying to find it right here on the map so I can figure out what I'm looking at, because I get mixed up between Del Bello Boulevard, Del Bello Lane, and Del Bello, what's the third one?
Spur.
It's like there's a few Del Bellos that live around here or something.
It's,
I know them in my head, and I know where they are, but.
the one we're talking about is from Rodeo Palms Parkway. It's the same road, so it goes by the Toyota dealership, and then once it comes across 288, then it's Del Bello Boulevard.
That's Pollard.
Then it dead
Yes.
ends.
Right now, it dead ends at Pollard. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So there's two components of it, Councilman. One is, would we want to see the classification lowered? And then the second part is the alignment sticking as is or being adjusted to what's being proposed. So first, classification. Anybody want to see the classification lowered?
Pollard to Del Bello Road.
Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
What is the red? How wide is the red?
Red is 100 feet right of way. It's an arterial.
And the purple is 120?
Purple is 120A. If you guys scroll down to the bottom of the map, you'll see it in the legend
I got
classification.
mine zoomed in, so.
Yeah, bottom right-hand corner, y'all. Yeah.
Too zoomed in.
So just to clear, so purple is 120, red is 100, orange, which is a collector, is 80.
Why is the parkway and the major thoroughfare the same?
Gary, we have a question from the Mayor Pro Tem about a major thoroughfare is 100. What would be the difference between a major thoroughfare at 120 feet compared to a parkway at 120 feet?
The only one that's major thoroughfare is State Highway 6, so it's for the number of lanes. Parkway is especially to have more green area. It's still arterial and Parkway might both be 4 lanes with a median, but the Parkway additional space, the 120, is for shared use path or for additional green space. So the Parkway designation.
Wise, and you'll see that when our roadway impact fee comes up, parkways would be classified as an arterial.
I think to add to that for the Mayor Pro Tem, I've seen times where a parkway gets used because maybe you have some sort of like utility easement or a gas pipeline easement that already goes there, so you keep that median for those purposes, and then you build the roads on both sides of that. Any other questions, Mayor Pro Tem? No, okay. Councilman Rossi?
We don't need to include green space. There's already green space here. There's no reason to build a larger road just to have grass on both sides of it. Why? I mean, why would we not be?
It's just protecting it, so in case something that's not in that area, like let's say it's over here and there's no green space. If they're gonna build it, that they put the green space in there.
Because we already have the other northbound. I mean, you've got Lyra and Chocolate Bayou that are red all the way up to Bailey.
So a few call-outs, Councilman, just for you to take into consideration. Valencia's building all around there. The city's 160 acres. It's going to be right using this road to, County Road 58 is right now. You get
backed up traffic pretty consistently too, when people are getting off of work or going into work. So I think that's why it's always been a parkway, is with that in mind from the past updates. Not saying we have to keep that, but that's opinions that I've heard shared in the past.
So if it got reduced by 20 feet, what's the lane loss on that? None?
Dan, Joe's, Gary, the question was, if you reduce it to 100 feet, are you just losing the median and it's just going to then be the lanes at that point, or what do you lose if you make that change?
So you're probably losing, so Pollard through Blue Water Lakes is a good example. You have that really wide multi-use pathway, on the east side of the road. If you go from 120 down to 100 now, you're probably talking about a normal sidewalk on one side and a multi-purpose on the other. Certainly couldn't fit a multi-pathway on both sides, as an example.
And over time, what happens typically is when you need more capacity, the median gets cut to add lanes. So if you don't have the additional room over time.
And you'll need it there for sure with the city center, so. Okay.
Dan, Joe's, didn't we give some sort of variance within the past 3 years for a property owner along that road that was asking for something? Can you remind us of what that was?
On Del Bello, the variance was to not require right-of-way dedication. So if we have to widen or if a road needs to be, we have to go pay him and get the land.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, thank you for that. So let's call the question on the classification. Does anybody want to see the classification lowered? Thumbs up or if you want to see it lowered. Okay, seeing none. Is there anybody that wants to see the alignment changed back to the original alignment rather than it curving upwards? I know I want to see that happen.
I'll go with that.
Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3 thumbs up.
Where just to specify, where it dead ends and it stays there and it doesn't connect to Lyra, is that what you're saying?
Correct, so it would dead end onto,
Pollard?
Onto what is County Del Bello Road, so it would.
So it would still turn up there, but it just wouldn't connect to Lyra?
Not turn, so think of it as, it would go, if you're looking at it on the map, it would go straight along the property line and connect, rather than curving through the back of somebody's pasture right now.
Like Del Bello Spur is below
Because
it.
it looks like it curves now. The way it looks is that it goes straight and then it goes dot, dot, dot.
Yeah, that's what they're proposing. So if you take a look,
So what you're proposing is what? For it not to go up like that?
For it to stick with its previous alignment, which was, if you take a look at Del Bello Spur just to the south of it, you see how it dead ends right into Del Bello Road?
Yes.
That is what the current alignment is on the thoroughfare plan for Del Bello Boulevard. It goes straight along property lines, dead ends into Del Bello Road.
Yeah.
The proposal, which is a very valid proposal, is to have it curve up through somebody's pasture.
I see that.
But we've made a big push in this thoroughfare plan to fix previous plans that cut through people's pastures and their homes and their pools and to stick on property lines. So while I get it, I'm proposing to keep it straight.
I agree.
We're talking about this one here.
We're talking about right here.
It's here, so
Just go straight.
what he's saying is, see how it cuts through their property right there?
Okay.
It would just go,
So we have Councilman Bonner's fine with keeping it straight. I'm fine with keeping it straight. It looks like we have enough support just to keep it straight.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got thumbs up just to keep it straight on the map.
engineering nightmare for them later on, but. Protecting the homes. That's right. They gotta stop, get on.
If
Del
they
Bello,
stop,
turn to
right,
Lyra.
Chief? If they stop.
develops.
And Mayor, the change from Parkway was a no, keep it as Parkway?
Keep it as a parkway, yeah.
Could we go back to the previous one, the Furnace Road discussion?
Yeah.
I believe the comment was the white lines on the map. There's an aerial photography base under the thoroughfare plan lines. All those white features are on the aerial image. That it's not anything we put on there, so it's not something we could change.
Okay, well, that's fine. I'm just saying there's no road there. It's
Right.
the field that I mow.
But it's not anything that we can change on the map. It's.
Well, let's, if we can take a look at that though, just to see, and I mean, if we call it out as an asterisk, because it would be weird that the aerial map shows it, but it's a field that's getting mowed right now.
I think it's just showing it as an existing right-of-way, not
That might be
necessarily.
what it is.
That's what it is. It's just a right-of-way.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And we'll check to see if we can find much more latest, a little more current version of the aerial image.
Perfect. And Council, think about the Del Bello Boulevard, the classification too. Have conversation. This is the first of 2 readings, so we do have the second reading. This will be on the regular agenda. So if there's other changes as well, increases in classification or decreases, we do have our second meeting to make those. All right, Council, I did not make note of any other requested changes or discussed changes. Were there any others before we make a motion on this? Okay. So, Council, I will make a motion to approve the first of 2 readings of this agenda item with the documented changes as it relates to Markham, removing the 1 segment off between 6 and CR 95C, changing the portion of Markham south of 6 to be referencing to the road's name of King, not Markham. The other was regarding the alignment of Del Bello Boulevard to keep with the current alignment rather than the proposed alignment. Dan Joes, am I missing any? No. Okay. Councilman Rossi Knox gave me the second on that. Is that correct, Councilman? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Gary, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate your work. Council, this is the first of 2 readings, so we do have time to have continued discussions, thoughts, feedback. I encourage you to reach out to staff. I encourage the public to reach out with any additional feedback that they have. This will be on our next agenda, both items on the regular agenda as well. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate you. Okay, Council, if you guys are good with it now, it's 8:09. If you guys are good, let's take a 6-minute break and come back at 8:15. Thank you, everyone.
We will now move on to agenda item number 4. We discussed this agenda item in the workshop. It is consideration and possible action to approve a variance to the subdivision ordinance and to authorize the mayor to execute the development agreement. There are conditions on it. So council, do I have any comments or questions regarding this agenda item?
What are the conditions again?
Joe's?
Let me, just to make sure I give you the right language.
And council, just so you can see it on the screen here while Joe's pulls that up, the red box is the property in question.
So it's the exact same condition like we had for the adjoining property. The first item is the requirement for escrow with the amount, with the interest and inflation factored in. The second one is that a plat will include a note specifying the variance as well as the escrow arrangement. The third condition is that a minimum building setback line of 40 feet shall be measured from the center line of the existing gravel area there. That is just so that in the future, if we have to use the money and build a road there, we are able to. And then finally, there are two comments, the conditions. One is that the variance shall expire and the fund shall be escrowed if the construction for the proposed development doesn't happen within 2 years. It doesn't start within 2 years. And finally, if the right-of-way is abandoned and a road is not proposed, the amount shall be refunded back to the developer.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay.
So we've granted a variance to the, so all of this isn't Rayner property anymore? He sold that portion?
No, this is a property which is right next to Rayner's property.
Yeah, so, but that wasn't all part of the...
No, this is a separate property.
Separate deal.
Owned by
And so, okay, so, and the roadway's behind the property?
Correct.
Yeah,
South of
okay, yeah, we granted a variance to, okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman?
Question, does this meet our ordinance that was adopted earlier this year regarding trees?
They'll be required to comply with the tree preservation.
So they haven't even started any kind of construction yet? This is just the initial?
Correct.
Okay.
This is one of the first steps as part of the
planning. Because I don't
planning.
want to, approve things and, get caught, so.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions or comments?
It pretty much is, though, a clear cut, correct? And they're going to plant new trees to build.
They'll have to provide us with documentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But just looking, what I'm trying to clear it up for Garrett a little bit is that I too see what he's saying. This isn't like they're going to be able to leave a whole lot and build the footprint that they want to build. It's going to be a lot of replacement stuff.
Correct. If they meet the criteria for tree removal, they get to remove the trees, and then replacement will be planted.
And just to call out, council, I want to make sure I'm gonna pull Bobby here. This is specifically a subdivision variance for the street and the right of way. So any conversation about trees or anything like that is outside of this conversation. So we need to keep it focused.
That's correct. That'll be part of the regular development, although a whole bunch of rules are going to have to follow when it comes to actually doing the building.
Yep, this is just the street variance.
There's no variance requested for trees. So.
All right, we have a motion to approve from Councilwoman Sarmiento.
Second.
We have a second from Councilwoman Roby Robinson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0, with a big emphasis on keeping an eye on the trees. Agenda item number 5, also discussed during our workshop, consideration of possible action to approve a variance to the subdivision ordinance and authorize the mayor to execute the development agreement. This is for the lot size and the requirements for that, council. You can see the lot on the screen in front of you or to the sides. Any comments and or questions as it relates to this agenda item? Do I have a motion for this agenda item?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve from Councilwoman Sarmiento, a second from Councilman Bonner. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0. Next, council, with your permission. Oh, thank you for hanging out with us. Oh, you brought all your plans too. Do you want to speak at all?
No.
No, you're like, I got the approval, I'm good. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm sorry, if I would have known you were here, I would have moved it up. My apologies about that. Have a good night. Council, I'd like to combine agenda items number 6 and 7. Are you guys good with that? Yep. Okay. This is a consideration of possible action to approve resolutions 2026-R-24 and 2026-R-25. Any comments and or questions? Hearing none. Councilman Oplager, can I have a motion? Pause. Hold up. Wait a minute.
Just so y'all note that in that resolution, you're setting a meeting for a special meeting date, which will be on April 27th, which is a PD&Z night. So we will need a quorum of everybody here in case you didn't notice that.
Okay. Council, do you guys want to check?
I'm just asking, no special time, though, their regular meeting? 6
o'clock.
And then
We got to say that date and time.
Yeah, it's built into the resolution.
And the resolution also sets the noticing requirement, which is like 10 days before the meeting, which happened to be today that we've sent the notice. Yeah, if at all something changes on the date, we'll be able to pull it up.
Okay. All right. So we're good.
I'll make a motion to approve both resolutions together.
We have a motion to approve from Councilman Bonner. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Councilman Oplager. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Tammy, if you could please get a calendar invite sent out, that'd be great. Thank you so much. Okay, Council, agenda item number 8. This is consideration possible action to approve a service agreement between the City of Manvel and the Department of Information Resources Communications Technology Services Division. I'm not going to say the acronym. And authorize the city manager to agreement. Chad gave us a great presentation about this during the workshop. Thank you for that, Chad. Council, any comments and or questions regarding this item? Hearing none, Mayor Pro Tem, can I get a motion for this agenda
I
item?
get a motion to approve item 8.
We have a motion to approve from Mayor Pro Tem Lands. We have a second from Councilman Rossi Knox. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, Chad. Agenda item number 9. This is consideration and possible action to decline the default increase in rates for the 2026 CPI adjustment to municipal telecommunications right-of-way access line rates. Tammy gave us a presentation about this during our workshop. Any comments and or questions relating to this agenda item? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilman Bonner. We'll give the second to Councilwoman Sarmiento. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0 to decline the default increase in rates. Next, agenda item number 10. Consideration and possible action to direct staff on the process for the appointments to the Home Rule Charter Review Board. Tammy, can you introduce this item? Bobby, we'll have you weigh in here as well. And council staff is just looking for direction on next steps to take as it relates to this process tonight.
So one of the requirements in the adopted charter is that the first meeting of every June of the 5th year after the last review, that you guys appoint an 11-member board to review the charter and determine if there's any proposed updates to present to y'all to determine if you want to put that on a ballot for the voters. So it's a little bit early, but what I need y'all to decide is how you guys want to pick those 11 people. So it's been done multiple ways. It can be done as in the past, each council member picked 2 people and then the mayor picked an extra person. It's been done where we've had people put in applications for it. So however you guys determine you want us to do that, what I need to know is if you want me to advertise anything for it.
So council, here's what I've experienced this once. Councilman Oplager, did you go through a charter commission appointment process? No, okay. So when I went through this in 21, it was a little odd because each council member got to pick one person, but then the 4 were kind of left up for grabs, and it made it awkward. Talking with staff, here's what I would like to propose, because as a mayor, I don't want to have any more appointments than what you guys would have either. So what I would propose is each of us have an appointment. We allow staff to have an appointment, and then we have 3 primary boards. We have Parks and Rec, we have MEDC, and we have PD&Z. And we would have one representative from those boards that they could nominate themselves as those boards to be the representative on the charter. My opinion is that they should still apply. So we would need to just have an application for them because we need to verify that they qualify to be appointed. They need to apply on time, but then at that point, it would come in front of us as just a slate with kind of the seat that the person would fill. Tammy, just a question before we open it up. What would be the qualifications of somebody that would be appointed? And I'm assuming, and I was not assuming, but I would say when we get closer to doing this, staff will kind of walk us through what the actual process and a little bit more details look like, what our involvement is as council, and what the community can expect from it.
Oh, please.
Yes. Citizens of the city.
So, citizens of the city.
That's the only requirement. It doesn't matter their age, so I can have my son be on the charter.
Oh, boy.
Saying.
Well, sure. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, he would say free ice cream every Friday. That would be his thing.
It's a 6-month term. Now, I will say that one of the boards finished prior to that 6 month, and other boards have finished far after.
So when you say citizen, define citizen.
So a voting member of the city.
Okay, so they can vote within our city election. So they can be in, so for example, Pomona, ETJ, but they can vote in our election. So is that a citizen or no?
So we didn't have the limited annexations back then.
So that might be an item for the Charter Review Commission to take a look at, is how do you define citizen? So.
But for the purposes of appointing the board, what's the rule? Because you're talking about making a change.
I don't think that if you're in the ETJ, you're not a citizen, but you can vote.
Okay.
I think that's a difference than a citizen who can vote is a non-citizen, but they can still vote because of the limited purpose annexation trade-off between sales tax and voting.
Okay, if we could just, what I would ask for that, if you guys could just send a memo, just a one-pager memo about what we would need to look for and who we appoint and just what that process would be, I think that would be clear for us. Council, what are your thoughts on kind of that appointment process? Do you guys like that? I tried to figure out the way to just be the most fair with it.
I like it.
Okay.
What's some of the responsibility for the Home Rule Charter Review Board?
Well, there's 3 things laid out in the charter itself, what their duties are. They're supposed to inquire into the operations of city government to see if the charter needs a change. So they're going to have to look at the charter. I think in the past, we've actually had either public hearing or had meetings where everybody was invited to come and give their input. So if there are any problems with the current charter, they can hear about it. That's the first thing. And then if they deem it desirable that it does need to be amended, then they have to pretty much come up with some findings, and they forward that to the council at the end and make a report. And the chairman of the board usually will come to council and explain, these are the findings, and we've had findings before that says no charter amendments needed, and we've had ones that say here's 3 that we would like to propose, and I think council maybe chose 2 of the 3 to put on the ballot, something like that.
So to your point, like the one that I was involved with in 21 was about compensation for council. And the board brought forward that they believe that council should be paid, or the commission be paid up to a certain dollar amount. That went to the voters. Voters voted it through, and then council adopted I think a resolution to set what those amounts were. So they look at the charter and they'll review it section by section and say what changes, and then ultimately there might be a disagreement on the commission, and so that's why you have an odd number, so that way they could take a vote and determine what changes they'd want to bring forward. And then staff will have some more of the logistical changes to make sure we're in compliance with state law, or is it better to use the word shall or may as it relates to this item or that item? So they'll meet. They'll also adopt a chairperson, correct?
Yes, they'll appoint their board.
Okay, and they'll appoint kind of the board and who runs it.
Is there a reason why it's only 6-month term versus isn't that what you said, 6 months?
Yeah, you would hope it wouldn't take them any longer.
So they have to get it to us with enough time for us to be able to get any changes on the ballot for the election that would happen next year. So we appoint in June, you have your 6 months.
End of the year, we're going to have it.
No changes can happen.
Say that again, Bobby, sorry.
That means usually from June, the 6 months after June usually means we'll have it in place by the end of the year, the report, and then we call the election typically, February? So we have a month to 6 weeks or so for council to go through the recommendations and call the election or not call the election.
Okay.
So on
Councilman?
the selection, so is there going to be a list of people that we could pick from, or we have to go recruit somebody? And then what happens if that person I recruit's a dud?
It's happened.
Don't recruit him.
Don't recruit a dud.
Or her.
Or,
well, you never know.
We'll add that to the memo. Do not recruit a dud.
Don't recruit a dud.
Councilman, and what I'm proposing specifically, I mean, obviously, you have boards already, you have people that show up to the meetings, you have the people that volunteer, but it would be each of us going for our 7 and recruiting that. However, Dan wants to handle it with his team, working with Tammy, Bobby Chief, and everyone to determine who they would like to see that's a citizen of Manvel. They would reach out to that person. You might call up somebody and they say that they're not interested, so then you would find someone else. The way I would recommend doing it is if there's specific changes that you want to see with the charter, find someone that aligns with you, that's going to be your voice on the Charter Review Commission. But also, they need to be somebody that has their own ideas. We want this to be something that is representative of the community because this is their document, and that's a big part of it. So it would be more you recruiting. Now, of course, reach out to Tammy or Dan or anyone, Bobby, and just like, hey, is there anyone that you guys have seen that's really involved and wants to be a part of it? I'm sure they have a few people in mind.
And I can send y'all the history of who was on the original and who was on the 3 other boards, so you can kind of see who's already participated.
I like that, Tammy. Okay, so Tammy, kind of walking through the process here, I think we would want an application process. It's not necessarily something we publicly post, but we would want these people to apply just to make sure that they're good. Is there a date that we would look to have the application process opened? And then when do we need to have these people in by? Or could that just be sent out in the post-meeting memo?
So you're not looking at doing like interviews like you did the other boards, though, right?
No, this would be just
Okay.
our appointments of who we bring forward.
Couldn't have an executive session because they haven't been delegated any functions of government.
Correct.
So I'll include that in my email to y'all, but it's going to have to be before your second meeting in May, because that's when you guys will kind of be discussing it to make the formal appointments for that first meeting in June. So I'll send y'all a schedule for that. So with the new posting dates, it's not one I can just quickly.
So you need nominations by the first week of May.
That's like in a couple weeks.
That's 3, 4.
A little bit after that, but I'll send you all a calendar, a schedule of it for timeframes, more like that second week of May, just so that we can have it discussed by that last meeting in
It's got a
May.
holiday in the May, so I was trying not to push you.
Tammy, a question. Let's say hypothetically, you have a council member that might be rolling off the council, and they wanted to appoint themselves. I mean, could you? I'm just saying, just a completely
My appointee is Crystal Sarmiento.
hypothetical.
You were going to.
So, can a sitting council member be appointed?
Yeah, because they're not going to start the meetings until the first of, it'll be you guys that make that formal decision, but you're going to have a new council member that will also be taking action at that last meeting in May, which your seat will already have been.
There wouldn't be a council member, when the action would be taken, it would be the new council person
Taking that action.
voting on that.
Person would be taking that action, so it wouldn't be enough time for me to appoint.
But one of your fellow council members could choose
We
you.
were just trying to figure out, I think they were asking if I would still be here when we took that action, and then appoint yourself.
No, so the appointment would have to happen afterwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So could a sitting council member be on it?
So let's say Mayor Pro Tem wanted to appoint himself to it.
So at the end of the day, you guys are going to be the final decision maker. So you're either going to take their recommendation or you're going to have your own recommendation. So you guys, typically in the past, council has not been part of that board because you want it more open and general. A few of the meetings, they even asked that council and mayor not show up to the meetings because they wanted the board to speak freely, as well as with some of the staff they did not want at the meetings, so that we weren't influencing their ideas. But again, at the end of the day, you guys determine what goes on the ballot, whether you like their recommendation or you want to put something different or nothing at all. it totally sits on y'all's hands before it goes to the voters.
Okay. So, council, if you guys are good with that process, what I'll do is I'll make a motion to provide direction to staff on the process as outlined in this discussion for a memo to be sent out outlining responsibilities, requirements, and key dates. And then, council, we got to get to work and do our part. Dan, Tammy, Bobby, we'll have to coordinate how we can work with the committees for their appointments, and then staff will work amongst you for your appointment. Do I have a second on that motion? I'll second. We have a second from Councilwoman Roby Robinson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously 7-0. Thank you, everyone. Last item on the agenda, and Tammy, this one's going to go over to you. This is consideration and possible action to direct staff on the notice and opportunity to comment State Highway 288 from County Road 58, Quarry Road to County Road 56, Meridiana Parkway, Control Section Job CSJ 0598-02-093, Brazoria County, Texas. I like the way Coach Brass said it. Brazoria County. I'm going to have to start doing that.
So this one we sent out just as an FYI as a public meeting happening to send input on. The mayor had replied back with some great ideas that could possibly be piggybacked off of this meeting. So, Mayor, do you want me to read off your email of ideas, or do you want to kind of talk about some of those ideas that you had?
Yeah, I can, Tammy. I can just briefly just mention it. And council, what I would see is if you guys, when does it need to be submitted by? The comment, when is it open until?
Oh, please.
While Tammy looks for that, council, when this was sent in internally as an FYI, I thought this might be an opportunity if all of us wanted to sign on to a letter and submit it. The reality is, whether we want it or not, the toll road's going to extend further south. It has been in motion. It is in motion. And so it's an opportunity for us to advocate for things like this, ensuring that there's proper feeder roads as they do this.
So that's what this is really about, is they're going to do a toll road expansion, and they're wanting comments on all of that.
Correct. Okay. So making sure that there's proper ingress and egress, making sure that there's feeder roads is some of my comments. While they're doing this, they need to, I believe that they should take into consideration beautification along the highway. The Brazoria County Toll Road Authority, they net $8.1 million after all of their expenses come in. They net $8.1 million. And so they have the money there to invest in the beautification of our major thoroughfares. I believe that there should be a revenue sharing. I mean, we're policing, we're responding to accidents, we're responding to emergencies. I believe that not just for our city, but for the cities that see their residents use it, like they should benefit from this. If the state's going to come and continue to apply downward pressure on property taxes, which we all want to pay less taxes, you have to make up that revenue somewhere. It should be consumption-based, sales tax-based. It should be the things like this. I'm not a fan of tolls, but if it's coming, why should we have to not benefit from it? It's going to bring more growth, and we bear the brunt of that growth. Yep. So, council, if you guys have thoughts or feedback on a letter, submitting a letter advocating for our community, we could, if you wanted to, submit one saying, no, don't do this, we don't want it. But they're doing it. It's already in development, it's already in design. And so if there's a way that we can leverage our collective voice to advocate on behalf of our community, I think it makes a very powerful statement. So Tammy, were you able to find a date there?
Mm-hmm. So all comments must be received or postmarked by Monday, April 13th. They can either be sent via email or, of course, postmarked by that date.
Okay.
And the letter is in the packets as well with the same information.
Okay. And so, council, mine were kind of three. It was, look at a revenue sharing, advocate for that, advocate feeders, ingress, egress, and then beautification efforts as they extend it further south. Don't know if you guys want to have a joint letter signed on. I would submit one on my personal behalf anyways.
I have a recommendation.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilwoman, please.
One of the things that we have heard and seen and experienced on that toll is that it bottlenecks right here, and I know that they want to extend it, which would alleviate that. But there was a deadly accident on there because it begins to bottleneck up, and people are coming so fast. Mm-hmm. There's no alert, there's no warning, there's no signage to say there's a stopping. People are stopping up ahead. I would like to see that. I don't know what they can do, what's within their power, what's within Brazoria County, TxDOT, or anything like that, but that stuff bottlenecks right here on Highway 6. And I think that if we figure out ways to be able to mitigate when it comes to a complete halt, it would save some lives in the future. Because let me tell you, I do not stay on that toll road anymore. I get off at Magnolia because it bottlenecks anyway. And you just sit there in traffic and people just rear end you, and there's no way to see that. So my comment.
Yeah, I agree with that. Council, thoughts, comments, feedback? Councilman Bonner?
Chief, is anybody from your department going to comment on this as far as looking at it from the safety aspect of the current setup on the roads and feeders and anything like that?
We can. This is the first time, first we've seen it.
I mean, you seem to, I would think y'all were more of experts than any of us as far as y'all do investigations when we have accidents, and you might know the root causes of them.
Not to contradict anybody, but I come off of it all the time, and I never have a problem with it.
I mean, I get that.
You know, and I would just have to go back and do some research to look at how many accidents we've had at that particular point, and just to see exactly what causes might be there.
Because, I mean, my thoughts is speed probably is 90% of the problem right there. The same old things that everybody has wrecks on: speed, distractions, you know, tired people driving, things like that. I don't know that widening it and doing any of that's it's gonna help people's peace of mind a little bit, because that's what they gripe about every day. We see that, you know, traffic right there is bad. Open up the third lane, you know, give us more ways and make a feeder road to where we're not coming in right over the overpass. I'm just wondering if that might help if they had the safety professionals making some comments too. That could help the discussion. That's just my thought.
Maybe a feedback there, Chief, if, you know, take a look at the letter that's drafted, if there's from a public safety perspective comments or information that could be added, let's definitely put that in.
We can do that. I can go back and research our accident data and see exactly what we have out there, and because I know it's the traffic is bad in really both directions, and it's all bottlenecked from 6 all the way to 58 at particular times of the day, especially in the afternoon hours when the traffic is coming back into town. It really gets bad as far as bottlenecking. But I can look at the data and see exactly what we might have, and try to meet with my staff and see what their thoughts are on it, and we can see where we can go from there.
Thank you.
The other item that I'll add, and then Councilman Opliger will go to you, is this, for whenever I looked at the project plan, it did not include opening up any third lanes. And I think that needs to be a call out in the letter that we submit. There's 2 choke points where there's bridges that might be a little bit of a challenge, but if they're extending the tollway south, if they're mobilizing resources, I think it's a great time and opportunity while construction's happening to get some third lanes open, and including that would be a good call out in the letter. Councilman Oakley?
So this is a Brazoria County toll road?
Toll road, yep.
So did the county engineer, when he was here last, did he talk about a hot ramp from 6 to the toll road? Is that, did he talk about that? Do you remember? He talked about building they talked about building an actual.
They asked for money for it to be built.
Yeah, because that's also the other big stack up is people coming off 6 onto 288. I can imagine what it would look like with a toll road there too. So that's going to change Highway 6 considerably, right? Of the 2 different lanes. But anyway, yeah.
I don't know where they're going to get the extra property, as I would say. It's just really tight on the east side.
So, council, what I'm hearing is there would be support for a joint letter from council.
Oh, yeah.
Some areas of feedback would be 3 lanes, advocating for revenue sharing, beautifications, ensuring that Highway 6, you know, exits, ingress, egress from Highway 6 is managed properly, and feeder roads is the items. Those are the items that I heard. Cool.
then we can go back and watch the recording to make sure we capture those, so. Oh, yeah, if there's any Manvel signage, let's beautify it. I would include that in the beautification. That's a good call out there, Councilwoman. And so Tammy, Dan, if we could just make sure to have the letter distributed to council prior, with a date, if you want any changes, or you want your name taken off of it, respond by this time, but council, once that date and time hits, and you don't have anything back, your name's going on and we're moving forward.
So it's April 13th. That's the deadline for a comment to be submitted to you or yours to them?
From us to them.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna, of course, have it a few days before that, just to be safe, yep. Okay, does that work for the possible action to direct staff? Does that work for you guys? Okay. All right, so now we will move on to mayor and council comments. Any council comments? Just a few Councilman, did you have something?
So the Missouri County Cities Association is next Wednesday, right? So I'm looking for everybody to be there, if possible, right? Right?
How are we doing?
Yeah, so next Wednesday, so we've had some great contributions from some wonderful business partners in our city. So, yeah, next Wednesday.
And Tammy, I believe you sent out some information about that tonight, correct?
Correct.
Perfect, thank you. Councilman Bonner.
I was just wondering how we were doing on the.
Door
gift.
prizes?
Yeah.
So Harry has been out paving the pavement, or paving the pounding the pavement to get door prizes. He has been doing a fantastic job. So we've got about 26 door prizes.
That's awesome. If there's any others, council, that you guys
If
can
you
do,
want
let's still.
to pound the
get a few
pavement.
Council,
Win one.
I know, right?
two from me. One is we have Garrett's garden party coming up this Saturday, correct? I got you. It's going to be a great party because I got Garrett a book. Can you show off that book? Excellent book there.
There's only one copy of that.
There's only one copy. You got it now. That was actually my wife's idea to buy it, so kudos to Erica. The other that I just want to say is we had, as you guys all probably are aware, past 9 days, a really big event that happened in Manvel. 100,000 people, they're estimating over 120,000 people now visited our city. And I know that a lot of people interacted with our staff that were on duty and off duty. And I just want to compliment everybody that was involved. When you have a mass gathering like that, there's always concerns, there's risks, there's anxieties, and each and every person represented our city very, very well. Our city now has got not just national, but international attention. Over 60 million views of videos on social media. When people saw that, our team represented the city of Manvel very, very well, and I just want to compliment everybody for that.
No, I didn't hear anything about any incidents that happened during it.
We'll just say that our team did an incredible job of keeping the things that happened they did a good job of just keeping those under wraps. Yep.
Yeah. And they had a lot of good, I think, outside agencies participated. I saw the email this morning from our emergency manager. And I didn't realize as many outside agencies were giving assistance as they did. So thank you to them if you're listening in.
Yep. We'll have to figure out, next year as they start to plan, parking was probably the biggest point of feedback. People parking on the shoulder of roads, creating dangerous situations for emergency response. But my understanding is they did not expect as many people to visit as what they visited. But this gets me really excited for the 160 acres. When you have the funding, when you have the volunteers, when you have the people involved, look at what can happen. And it makes me excited for what the future holds there. And I'm looking forward to an update soon, Manager Dan, on next steps for the 160. So appreciate that. All right, Council, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn from Councilman Bonner. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilwoman Roby Robinson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes unanimously, 7-0.